Hello and welcome to the BNB show. That's right. Seahawks Brendon Nelson is back in the house for our Thursday show here on the Hawks Nest side of things. What's up, Seahawks Brendon Nelson? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on once again. And it's a big day for football fans, isn't it?
It's a huge day. This is an unveiling day. This is the dramatic effect as they pull back the curtain on this one for us real nerd files as far as NFL football is concerned, because the NFL schedule can tell you quite a bit. It's a place to get you excited. Me and Brendon are going to give you guys a little bit of an interesting spin on this today, because we both agreed prior to this, with it dropping at just 5 o'clock Eastern time, that we would not be looking at the schedule today. So me and Brendon are going to first discuss the one game that we have heard about, because unless you've been dead today, you've had somebody mention this to you on the first game. But then after that, we're going to unveil the whole schedule. It's going to take me and him a second to collect our awe a bit and figure out what we're going to say of it. Then we're going to kind of go through game by game what we think and give you guys a little bit of a breakdown on that. So have a little fun with this today. Hope you guys will have some fun with it as well. Are you riding still pretty high on the draft as I am? Are you still feeling pretty good about it?
That's all we've got to work with right now, right? We've had a draft. We haven't played games. We haven't had practices or training camps. This is still the most recent occurrence to do with this team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you gotta until training camp comes around.
That's true. That's true. And it sounds like good reports off of the mini camps from the kids. Everything was all good around on that. I mean, you'd expect that, but it's still nice to hear nonetheless. Well, let's dive into the first game. First game got leaked today. This is the game the NFL was chomping at the bit to schedule the second that the news broke of Russell Wilson's trade. You know it. I know it. And that is that the man, the myth, the legend is returning back to Seattle. Opening game of the season, Monday Night Football. Denver Broncos at the Seattle Seahawks. I'm sure you weren't surprised, Brendon, because you're a pretty smart cat and you're up ahead of this stuff as far as anticipating it as well. But what were your thoughts on hearing this news?
Well, I had a lot of different thoughts. We knew this game was coming, so it's not like that fact surprises us. As for it being week one, I guess it makes sense, right? I guess when you think about it, it does kind of make sense that they would make that a featured game. I thought that maybe they would hold off on it, kind of like they did with Brady going back to New England. I think that was a week 4 or week 5 game or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Peyton Manning going back to Indy. I think the first time was like a week 7 game.
Mid-year.
If I'm remembering correctly.
You're right. No, that they did wait on that one too. It's a good point.
Yeah, but couple of thoughts. As for the game itself, for one, apparently we might dodge Jerry Jeudy. I don't know if you've been hearing about that.
Well, I heard he was arrested, but the police weren't releasing out what his charge was.
It was something to do with domestic violence.
Ooh. Okay.
So not good. Not good for him at all. I don't know why this is how he chooses to celebrate finally getting a good quarterback at the NFL level. Like, he was the one who was making a big deal about, oh, finally I have a good quarterback, and you don't now, and at least not for probably the first 6 games based on precedence, I guess.
Even before this, were you getting a general weird vibe from Denver fans about Jeudy? I mean, I don't know what it is, but there was something I was getting with them that they were just kind of, I'm not saying buyer's remorse about him as far as the draft pick, but that there was a little of like, yeah, we hope he's going to round out here. I don't know. We'll see. But that would be nice. That'd be helpful. It certainly gets better to get Russell Wilson usually at the end of the year than the first of the year when he's fresh and healthy. No, you think?
He's in a new offense.
That's a good point.
Would you rather get him first game with these new teammates, new coaches, or would you rather get him after he's had 3 months? Like Brady in Tampa, great example, right?
Yeah.
That first 2.5 months, maybe even 3 months, he wasn't that good. Tampa Bay wasn't that good, and then they got hot. But maybe you'd rather catch him at the beginning than you would in December, after he's had a chance to either acclimate himself to the offense or Denver decides to change their offense to suit him.
Yeah.
That first game, you're probably going to be looking at that square peg into a round hole thing, right?
I'm hoping so. I could also see him doing that. Like, this game means more to me than any other game on my schedule this season. So I'm going to run 10 read option keepers, you know, and I'm going to be like taking every yard I can and just pressing the defense. But you're right. There's maybe a little bit of that rough edge to him as he gets into there that we might see with Trill learning the ropes. And it's the thing that where we can challenge them on this is we've got a new scheme we're going to unveil that nobody else has had any view of in this first game. We could be seeing a blitz heavy approach. And the one thing that we do know that Russell can sometimes struggle with is recognizing those heavy fronts and where the blitz is coming from and where it's not coming from and who's dropping back and who's remaining. And that can throw him for a little bit of a loop. And again, to your point, is on a new team. So maybe there's a little bit of a benefit, so especially having it at home versus on Denver, I think. Maybe a little bit more helpful for us as well. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make a major difference. But Monday night, the stadium's going to be lit. You think the fans boo?
I'm interested to see if they do, because on my channel and in some of the Facebook groups, you definitely see the people who have really turned on Wilson, which I didn't know we were going to get. I think some of it comes from kind of a naive place. Like I've seen this narrative of like, oh, he said he was going to play here forever, and then he allowed himself to get traded. How dare he? That's silly, I think. But regardless of the reasons why, I have noticed a decent chunk of the Seattle fan base turning on Wilson for one reason or another. Now, is that the average fan? Is that the guy who goes to the games? Are they going to be a little more, well, he was our quarterback for 10 years. He won a Super Bowl. He did a lot of great stuff. So I'm not gonna be like this just because he went to another team. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a smattering. I think it's a little bit of, you get the mixed. It's not the Alex Rodriguez treatment with dangling dollars and horse heads or whatever they would be doing. But it's going to be probably a here and there, a little bit of some applause and some smattering, I would expect. And I hope people wouldn't boo. It's, for those of us like you that saw this kind of coming down the track a while out, possibly it's a little less, surprising and understandable that it was just more of a parting of ways than there was the evil person at the head of this that caused this whole thing to go wrong. It's just kind of like, hey, people fall apart. It happened with Belichick and Brady. It can happen with anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like a Brett Favre thing even. I remember he got booed when he went back as a Viking.
Yeah. Well, that was pretty cold blood. If Russ came back as a San Francisco 49er, I guarantee you he would be booed. that would be absolutely no, there would not be one fan in the stadium. Even the little 4-year-olds would have their little middle finger up going. All right. So what do we think is going to go down in this first game? He's rough and tumble. The Broncos were in the last 2 years, 26th and 28 in pass block efficiency. They can run the ball with Javonte Williams. People are kind of bumping up their pass rush. I feel like, Brendon, they're trying to say DJ Jones is like this. Him and Randy Gregory is these centerpiece additions added to the team. When you also have to add into that they lost Von Miller over the last year too. So like that's kind of like the way that formula plays out. It's a very good defense, don't get me wrong, and the secondary is pretty tight. But how would you see this game, playing out? We can't predict who the quarterback's going to be necessarily, but I think both these quarterbacks kind of play the game similarly. It's going to be a game manager situation.
Right. I mean, they did lose their defensive coaching, right? Fangio's gone, and
all of it.
They had Donatel, right?
Donatel's out too. Yep, everybody.
So to me, I don't know. I mean, they also drafted Bonito, right? Weren't they the team that drafted Bonito? I believe they were. So that's going to help. But yeah, I think the defense, it's still got a lot of good talent. They've got Justin Simmons. They've got Bradley Chubb. I don't know if he's ever going to be healthy, but
yeah, I know.
Maybe he will be for a week 1 game at least. But yeah, you would expect that defense to take a step back, if for no other reason than that they're getting new coaches in there. And the guys they had previously were pretty well respected. This is not a situation where the coaches got fired because they didn't know how to coach defense. It was just kind of a cleaning of house.
And I think we have to look at these good points. I think we have to look at these games from Seattle's perspective as well, that they're going to try to commit to running this football here, and that you look at how they attack this opposition throughout the schedule. It's going to have to be with the lens of how does that opposition stop the run. And the Broncos have loaded up on the pass rushers, guys like Bonito or Gregory, or DJ Jones, who gives you a modichrome of pass rusher in the middle. Chubb, and they've got the secondary, but what about stopping the run? Where they're a team that really defensively built to this new school approach of back to front, to your point, to Justin Simmons, Surtain. They've got those guys in the back end that they really built up, but it's kind of gets neutralized if you're just a team trying to run the ball 35 times on the day against them, isn't it? Just a tiny bit.
Yeah, it has to be. I'm keeping an eye on what we do with our interior offensive line this training camp. Like, are we going to start trying to put guys in the right positions to succeed? Is Phil Haynes going to be a starter at guard? Is Damian Lewis going to get to move back to right guard where he actually plays at a high level? Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking out for. And we got to remember both of our tackles are probably going to be rookies. I know Carroll said that Curhan and Lucas were in a competition, but I mean, I have no problem with that, but I'm pretty sure Lucas is going to win that competition. Yeah. But they are still rookies. I am prepared for some issues stemming from that. But I guess I would expect a somewhat low-scoring game, I would say. I mean, if there's any coach in all the world who has an understanding of how to stymie Wilson a little bit, it should be Carroll. Good point. I would expect the defense to do well, but I'm looking for this offense to be a work in progress, and certainly still by week 1 it will be.
Imagine if he's just sitting on like 10 things in his back pocket that he's always thought about of like, if I ever played Russ, I'd just do this. He wouldn't be able to do anything against, because he's an old defensive minded coach. So those thoughts run into your head no matter, how I don't know. We'll see. But I would wonder if he's got that kind of in the back of his brain. Well, let's do our well, give me a score. I'm gonna press you on a score. I know you don't like doing these scores, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
I don't know, 20-17 Denver, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't surprise me if, and one of the nice things is, even if you're rooting for the team to tank, you can still root for them to win in this game because we have both picks. So
yeah,
doesn't really matter.
Win-win.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just not there yet. I'm not on that Drew Lock wagon quite yet.
It's a good point. You need to be proven over, and it's I could see a game like this coming down close, and then Wilson gets it at the end, and then just stabs us in the heart on a final, last second drive up the football field. Well, let's do our great unveiling, Brendon. Get your schedule up. I'm going to take a look at mine and my OS face. So let's take a little glance here at this schedule.
Okay, let me pull it up here. Aha.
Okay. Yes. At the Arrowhead, 10 a.m.
Germany. Okay. Yeah, and then they put that after the Germany game, which makes sense. Okay. All right.
All right. We'll go lane by lane on this one. Kind of a okay. First blush from my standpoint, there's no hot cold parts. Would you say there doesn't look like a lot of, you got a run of a death row of 5 games you're going through. Obviously the Buccaneers, Rams, Chiefs, Rams one is probably as close as you're getting with 49ers on the back end, but around that it's fairly balanced. Would you say?
Yeah, even there you've got the Panthers in between, and I don't know what the Raiders are going to be. I don't know. But yeah, it's let's see here. Yeah, you've got like the Falcons week 3, and then the Lions, and then the Saints 3 in a row. That's a little bit of maybe you could get hot on that stretch, right? Even if the Seahawks team is not that good, you've got Falcons, Lions, Saints. That could be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. It's my whole thing with this has been too with us is that we just play this sort of like dirty up roll this year if we have any chance of competing, where you're just sort of hoping maybe a couple injuries go or a few teams, as does happen every year. There's only a couple of front runner teams in the NFC, so if a few of them get hampered or something happens, and you can just kind of be in that pole position to slingshot around them right as you kind of get into the depths of your schedule. But you're right, you can get a nice little run there out the gate. Yeah.
I mean, the issue is, I think that Saints game is actually really key here, because then you go Saints, Cardinals, Chargers.
Let's go week after the Broncos. Let's go week 2. We get the rival out right after that week 2, which again, I think this sets up nicely for us as well, Brendon, because you've got the 49ers there, and that's possibly with Trey Lance if Garoppolo is out by that point. So just like last year when you got Lance in after Garoppolo went out with that injury on the road, and you were kind of able to take advantage of his green state there. Maybe he's still, because reports we're hearing, and I've had Niner fans get sensitive about this on my chat, but the reports we are hearing is that Lance is kind of struggling right now to come along and pick it up.
Yeah, Brock Purdy's the future of the 49ers, I guess.
You're muted. Oh, you're muted.
Any better?
Oh, no, I can hear you. Never mind. It's me. It's me.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I was. Okay. Yeah. There we go.
Sorry,
yeah, but Brock Purdy's the future of the 49ers, I guess, huh?
Hey, that would be a Shanahan move, right? He did that with the running back, no Trey Sermon. I'll go with Elijah. I could see him totally going, we're just going with the best guy. We're going with the best guy. That's what we do here. And getting all serious about it. And, but if we do get Lance in that game too, because he's kind of forced into action because they've moved Garoppolo, or they may just hold on to Garoppolo at this point if they really don't feel that. Don't you think, if they feel so unconfident in him?
God, it just seems so bad. It seems so bad to keep him for that price, especially when his contract is part of the reason why you can't pay Debo. And what are you going to do? Alienate Debo to the point where he starts faking injuries so he doesn't have to play for you? I mean, yeah, I can't believe they would do it, but maybe they will.
What if they're dealing with Debo sit-in at this point too? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Shanahan has a type, and it's not Trey Lance. We know that. And I think we also kind of know that John Lynch was behind that drafting, not Shanahan. So maybe
it would make sense why we're hearing that Mac Jones was the guy leading up to it, and then at the last second they sort of pulled the cloth off the kitchen table, and it was suddenly then Trey Lance instead. And that was what I was hearing at the time, was Mac was more of the Shanahan guy, so to speak. I think that they're in a pickle there early on, though, in the season. I mean, I could see them getting better as the year went along, like they did this year. But if Garoppolo's out, they've got Lance. If maybe there's a hold-in situation with Debo because he still doesn't have a contract, and I haven't heard anything. Maybe they get it done, and they're going to be a tough foe no matter what at that point because they have a very good team. But maybe that's the place where you can get a little bit of an advantage in that particular game, though you are playing it on the road the week after on a shortened week, of course, as well. So we probably have to take that into account. What do you see on that as a win-loss?
I mean, we always beat the Niners, but things have changed a little bit, right?
We don't have Russ.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling something like I still don't think they're going to be able to score that much on us. I'm going to say something like 24-17, something like that.
All right. So I'm gonna match with you early on here. I'm gonna say okay, so I'm going to be just to be a little bit different, Brendon. Go a different direction. I'm going to say we got the win in the opening week. The energy in Lumen Field is crazy on a Monday night. Everybody's drunk out of their mind. The energy is just riled up. Russ is just feeling a little bit of heat that day. We get him. The week after that, I agree with you. Lance or Garoppolo, what is it? Garoppolo doesn't do good against us necessarily either. I mean, he has beat us, but it wasn't like he's gone out there and just throwing pills all over the football field. And we still are going to be committed to stopping the run early on, which is what Shanahan wants to do most. That we are still a bad matchup problem. When we look at this whole schedule, Brendon, it does come down to, when you look at these games, beyond like how good or stacked a team is, wouldn't you agree? It's a matchup game, isn't it? It's a game of how we stylistically go up against you stylistically.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we've been able to have a lot of success against the Niners in recent years, even in years where the Niners are clearly a better team than us.
Yeah.
So it has to be, absolutely. But I don't know. I just don't think we're going to be able to score enough. I just kind of feel like we're not going to be able to score enough, even though I think Carroll will continue to have a decent amount of success against Shanahan like he always has. I don't think it's going to be enough to get a win, especially this early in the season. You've still got Cross and Lucas probably playing their first couple games in the NFL. I don't see it.
Yeah, Bosa baptism by fire, right? With Cross.
Right.
That's going to be for sure. So, all right. So you got a loss on that one?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Brendon's 0-2 out the gate. I'm 2-0. So we're going back and forth. All right. So we got the September 25th. At home, 1:00 game in the afternoon. We got the Atlanta Falcons coming to the building with Mr. Desmond Ridder. I think we're going to be
Mariota, right?
No, but you're right. Probably Mariota's probably starting. Well, they'll have a competition, so let the best man win. We obviously, I think, would want Ridder over Mariota because Mariota with his legs can be a problem. With that being said, I think don't let me talk for you, but I think we both agree when you look at the Falcons here, this is a game that even with us kind of struggling to get the points, we should be able to take this particular game.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about this one as of right now. There's just not a whole lot with that Falcons team you see that you're particularly excited about. They had a nice draft, though. I really like their draft. They got Troy Anderson, one of my favorites.
Oh, he's great. It's gonna be fun to watch him because he's gonna be starting opening week. I guarantee you.
Yeah,
Opening week, he'll be out
yeah,
there if he's healthy.
yeah. And they got one other guy who I was really high on too. I can't remember who it was, but there, as of right now, there isn't a whole lot to say. Like they were definitely betting a lot on Calvin Ridley, and well, we've seen what happened there. So that left them in a situation where they were like, well, let's just trade Matt Ryan now. Like, what are we going to do with who's their number one receiver right now? It's
Pitts.
not Pitts. Yeah, I guess it would have to be Pitts nominally, but he's a tight end. Who's their number one wide receiver? It's I don't even know because they lost their number 3 guy to the Bucks. Gage. Yeah. So I don't even know who their number one receiver is. I don't know who. Honestly, off the top of my head, I'm not even sure who their running backs are. So I don't see a whole lot to talk about with that team right now. And at home, I do think our defense will be pretty good this year, and I think we can ride them to a win in this one.
Well, and my predictions with my defense, I'm thinking these wins happen because the defense comes strong early for a couple of factors. Number one, they put the majority of their assets this offseason, kind of, at least from a financial perspective, into the defensive side of the ball. But then number two, you're running this whole new scheme. And I think that just the returns you might get immediately off that, where nobody has the preparation of film or to learn where the exposure will be in that scheme with your personnel, will allow for them to maybe be a little bit strong with it out the jump, and it might wane a little bit more as the year goes along. Kind of the inverse of what you get from the offensive side of the ball, right, Brendon? Where it's like takes a year for things to set. Defensively, it doesn't work the same way. You can get the returns of that actually really pretty quickly, especially when you're moving from one zone scheme to another zone scheme. And though we're going to 3-4, we were always running a 4-3 with 3-4 principles. So the transition here is not going to be as steep to go from one to the other like it would offensively, going from the 1980s offense to Sean McVay's modernized approach.
Right. And hopefully by this time we will start seeing some returns on that, some of the more outside zone run stuff that we talk about all the time. And now that we've got at least some offensive linemen who should be able to run that a little bit, yeah, I think it'll go a lot better this year, but the personnel is significantly weaker overall, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. So you gotta win here. I'll right. I don't want to speak for you.
Yeah, I say we get our first win of the year against the Falcons. I'll put that one down.
All right, Brennan's got 1 and 2. I'm going to obviously go with the win here. I think Seattle wins this by actually 10 points on this one. The other games are going to be down to like maybe even a point or 3 at the most.
Mm-hmm.
But this one I'll go with the 10 pointers here. 3-0. We're coming into the Detroit Lions. We're at Detroit. The first 10 a.m. game of the year, October 2nd, in the Metrodome. It's still the Metrodome, right? They're still in the Metro.
So the Lions, aren't they in the Ford Field Dome?
Is it the Ford? Okay, yeah, they are in the new one. I like the old names, Brendon. Arrowhead.
Oh yeah, of course you do.
You know, all that stuff. I like those so much better. It's just
yeah. What did they used to call the Steelers Stadium? Was it 3Com?
Three Rivers.
Three Rivers. Yeah,
I mean,
that
that's
was
just
better than what it is now. Right now,
that's
isn't
poetry.
It?
That's poetry, man. You know what I mean? It's compared to now. It's like Climate Pledge Change Arena. That instills some fear, doesn't it, in some hearts?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you know, I got no love for Starbucks, but it was always kind of sad to me we didn't get Starbucks grounds for the Safeco Field.
Oh, there you
go.
I
remember that was the other one because I thought that was actually kind of cool. Starbucks grounds, that makes sense, but didn't happen.
That's a marketing opportunity lost right there by Starbucks. I don't know what they're thinking missing that one. You're right. That'd be all day. That sets in people's mind. It's a local thing. That's like a win-win-win. It's not like the naming rights are actually that expensive. I mean, for the fact you get mentioned every time on national TV with the state, all that's like, it's like $35 million for like a 3-year contract or something, I think. Some weird thing like that. All right, so we got the Detroit Lions at home. Lions have been doing a very good job of investing in their lines. They're trying to chew off kneecaps. You know, where do you see this game going? It's a 10 a.m. game. Coach Carroll's done a very good job with these 10 a.m. games. But where would you see this particular, you know, this is going to be a dirty affair probably here, right? It's going to be kind of a mucked up, just dirty kind of game where both teams are going to just try to run. But Lions didn't do a ton this offseason. I'm just double checking on them. if there's anything that jumps out with them. They got DJ Shark in there. Not really a much about any other moves. They released Trey Flowers to save some cap space, so he's not going to be in the mold. They're going to be relying on some of the younger guys.
Yeah, they
What do
drafted
you
Hutchinson, which was a pretty big coup. Didn't
Hutch,
think they were going to have a chance to get him.
that definitely does help them. And I think I'm double checking. Their draft was overall pretty solid. But then Jamison Williams, he's not going to be ready, so we don't have to worry about him. He was their other first round pick at the end of the first round. Josh Pascal's a good kid out of Kentucky. He's going to give him good run stuffing play. He'll be a problem for us in trying to get the run going in that game. Right. They had a good draft, man. I like what they did. Actually, it was pretty solid down the line. 10 a.m. We got a battle. This is going to again just be a tough battle, but again, it's the Lions. How do you see this one playing out?
I feel pretty good about it. As much as the Lions are on the right track, they're still kind of running out the clock with their stopgap quarterback. They're still. I thought there were some opportunities to move off Goff this offseason, but they don't seem that interested in it. So I think that's going to be an advantage. Although Goff didn't play terribly last year, it's got to be said. I still think they're kind of working their way up through things. And I don't know, this feels like a game where the defense just takes care of business. Kind of makes me think of that game in 2018 where we played the Lions, went into Ford Field and just kind of didn't blow them out or anything, but we handled our business fairly well. And I feel like we can do that in this game too.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same place. I think we're early enough in the season. Lions are, to your point on this, I feel like they're taking this really kind of slow roll approach to the their building of this thing under Campbell and getting it going. It's like they're not in any hurry whatsoever. And look at the free agency. It's like you guys haven't really been spending that much money, and you've lost guys like Kenny Galladay in recent years, but you haven't really been injecting much into it. I like the Penei Sewell draft last year. That was a good pick. Hutchinson's a good pick. These are good foundational players, no doubt about it. But they need to do a lot more from what they've done as far as my standpoint. So I got us undefeated here through 4 weeks, Brendon. I am fanboying the hell out here, man. I'm way over my skis. You've got us at 2-2 though, in your smartly conservative view on this thing. So we go into week 5. We got the Saints back-to-back weeks of 10 a.m. games. The week 5 game at the Saints, October 9th, 10 a.m. Dennis Allen's taken over as the head coach for the New Orleans Saints. They have been pretty active this offseason all the way around as much as they can be, of course, trying to get Deshaun Watson, but missing out on that. And then going back to the Jameson Winston and have you been watching his workouts lately?
A little bit. Yeah, I've seen some of that. This is one of the toughest games for me to guess this year because it's just so hard to know what the Saints are going to be this year because they lost their head coach, their longtime head coach. And Dennis Allen, it was a long time ago, but when he was a head coach last, it didn't go very well. It did not work out terribly well for him. So he's done some really good things in New Orleans as a defensive coordinator, but being a head coach is a different challenge. So this one's really hard for me to figure out, but the Saints defense should still be really good. It is on the road in the Superdome, and the Saints are typically quite good in the Superdome. So I could see this one going either way, but I'm going to say we drop it like 21-20, something like that.
Yeah, this is going to be my first loss of the season for us. I think that the 10 a.m. thing has been cool that we've been able to conquer it. I think when you start going back-to-back weeks, 10 a.m. like that, so you're going to Detroit, 10 a.m., playing your schedule, coming all the way then back home, then going all the way back on a 10 a.m. the next week. I think that's kind of challenging on the body a little bit. And I think the Saints, though, I don't think they're going to necessarily be legit this year as far as being a world beater. I think they're going to be one of those pesky, tough teams to play that you just don't really want to have to face. And you certainly don't want to be facing them 10 a.m. in it's still the Superdome, right? It's not called like Cajun Life Field or some weird stuff.
The Falcons have the Mercedes-Benz Dome, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay. Then I think the Saints may still have the Superdome, but maybe it has another name that nobody uses.
Yeah.
Like maybe it is like the IBM Bowl and nobody calls it that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time. It is only a matter of time. So okay, so Brendon at this point has got us at 2-3. I got us at 4-1. Brendon, we got a couple of super chats here, so let me get those up on the screen here. Washington Fistquest, thank you for the $2 donation. Very kind of you. He says, week 1 is Shelby Harris revenge game. SWAT. I love
Yeah.
it. Well, the
I
thing about
mean,
Shelby is those the long arms show up. Did you watch the highlights on him? It's like every time he's doing whatever he's doing, he's really utilizing these really long arms and long reach that he seems to have.
yeah, I do think he's going to give us a good 2 years. Probably only those 2 years because then he'll be 32 or something. But I think he's going to give us a good couple years, and he's a good player.
He is. He seems really solid, and I haven't heard one Denver Bronco fan. They've been pretty good in their praise of all the guys we got. Quite frankly, they weren't hating on Fant or even hating on Locke. Most of them, but Harris is a guy that they said you'll like this guy. Just a good all around player, and maybe he can knock down a few of those Russell Wilson passes with those long arms. To Washington Fish Quest's point, keep
Yeah.
going to the big
By the
Seahawks.
way, a couple people in the chat say it is now called the Caesars Superdome. Now, is that for Little Caesars, the cheap
Ugh,
pizza place, or Caesars, the casino hotel in Las Vegas?
probably because they got that gambling thing now with Caesars, so it's probably Caesars gambling thing because they've got all that
Yeah.
money injected in, which is, I mean, it just,
Okay.
mm, I, it's so much better. It's just that it has an ambiance to it, Brendan. When your stadium has some just killer, like I'd want something Pacific Northwest and like just that sounds like the shoals. I don't know, something just. I'm spitballing here, but if you did, it just adds to me an extra layer. Like saying I'm going to Arrowhead's, like I don't want to go to Arrowhead. That doesn't sound like a good place to go to. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
going to avoid Arrowhead.
Yeah. I mean, the Kingdom was a dump, but that's a pretty cool name.
It's a cool name, right? And it's got that,
Yeah.
there. By the way, I just learned last night that Welcome to the Jungle was written about the Kingdom for the first time. You know that one?
I did not know that one. I knew that they got the lyric, you know where you are, you're in the jungle, from they were walking by a random homeless guy and he just said it randomly and they ended up incorporating it into the song, but I didn't know about that.
Somebody dropped that on me last night. I was like,
Huh.
oh, okay, that's interesting. So, and once again, I'm not. Why are we going with Bittersweet Symphony when we could be doing that right? That one's sitting right there, and we're going Bittersweet Symphony. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Let's move on Bittersweet Symphony and move in. Welcome to, and then everybody's like, well, the Bengals are using it. Like, oh, give me a break.
Hmm.
Megan Gok Roger with a $5 donation. Thank you, Megan. She says, I finally know what game I'll be heading to while in Seattle. Sadly, not the Broncos, but the Cards, purely to annoy my Cards loving brother. Well, nice. He's going to be
Hmm.
upset, and especially if we're winning, and we're going to have you celebrating on video after the win with them, that's actually a good, nice uh, push forward here, Megan, because that's actually our next game that we're going to be talking about.
Yes,
But
it is.
it's going to be a good game, Megan. As long as we don't have Colt McCoy in the field, we'll be all right. It'll be a fun game as long as he's not out there, right?
Well, it's early in the season, so Kyler should be okay.
Yeah, hopefully. But thank you, Megan, for the donation.
Yeah.
Very
But
kind
you
of
know
you.
who's not going to be okay
Who?
is D Hop, because this is the last game he misses for his PED suspension.
Woo! Hell yeah! Go PEDs. I mean, PEDs suck. You can't use them. Don't abuse those kids. They're bad. All right, so
Yeah.
that's a great point by Brendan. And Brendan, you're not bearing the lead here. This is the lead. We saw a significant difference in Kyler Murray's play at the quarterback position last year when he had DeAndre Hopkins versus when he didn't have DeAndre Hopkins, right? It was kind of a night and day difference as far as his two performance levels on the year.
Yeah. The Cardinals by the end of the season looked like one of the worst teams in the league after they lost D Hop. They legitimately they beat the Cowboys in a game where they kind of got a huge break at the end of the game, but they got blown out by the Lions. They got blown out in their playoff game. We beat them. That was a team that had no business being in the playoffs the way they were playing at that point.
Yeah.
So now they've got Hollywood. They've got Hollywood Brown, and he's a good player. That's going to help, but you're kind of looking at that more as like a replacement for Christian Kirk, who you
Right.
lost in free agency, more so than you are a D Hop replacement. So you're kind of in the same position overall.
D Hop to me has been one of the most, I think you're kind of intimating this a little bit. D Hop is at kind of a special level at this point as far as what he's been as a receiver when he's on the field. Let's put the PEDs away for a second. The guy is just a magnificent receiver. He is a problem, on the field. You really don't have the personnel almost to deal with him. He's going to get his catches, especially with Kyler there. It sometimes seemed like. Would you not agree, or do you think he's been a guy he's been good, he's been solid, but maybe even over.
Well, the way he plays is just different than the average receiver. His ability to
Yeah.
high point balls, his ability to use his size, it's very different from a guy like Hollywood Brown, who is not that kind of player at all. He's much more like a Christian Kirk type,
Yeah.
and he's still very good. Hollywood Brown's a good player, but you're basically looking at him as, like I said, the Christian Kirk replacement, and you still need D-Hop. Well, you're not going to have him in this game. And didn't they lose? Who was their James Conner? Did he go somewhere else, or did he
Edmonds, I think,
resign?
Edmonds was the guy that left. It
Okay,
was
Edmonds
Chase,
left.
and I always liked Chase Edmonds better than Connor. Connor to me is one of the more overrated backs in the league.
Yeah, I don't know. He looked a lot better in that Cardinals uniform, I thought. Like when I watched him play on the Steelers that last year or two, I wasn't impressed, but there was just something about him wearing that Cardinals jerseys. It made him look a lot better. I don't know what it was,
He
but
runs really tough. He's like, to me, a poor man's version of Carson. It's kind of like how I
mm,
see Connor, like just
yeah. Yeah, he ended up with like a 3.7 yard per carry average, I think, last year. It wasn't good, whatever it was.
yeah.
So he had a lot of touchdowns, but he wasn't exactly tremendously productive.
Yeah, and he's going to be that grinder type back, 3 yards in a cloud of dust that'll get you when you need 3 yards. He'll get you 3 yards, but he's not. That was the thing with Edmonds with them is Edmonds provided a big play component where he could bust out the 15, 20-yard run. He could be a problem in open space. Connor's just doesn't have enough of the juice in the wheels there to get himself, into that area of things. And I don't think that they drafted anybody either to me that stood out. That has me fearful as well. I was really underwhelmed by the Arizona Cardinal draft.
Yeah,
Brendon.
they got Trey McBride, I think.
Yeah, which they went Trey McBride. They went with 2 edge rushers that are marginal edge rushers in this draft.
Oh, Sanders, the Cincinnati guy, the Bearcat.
235-pound edge player, dude. 230-pound edge player. Like when I tell you he's light. And McBride doesn't have dynamic ability as far as he can catch really well. He's a really good contested catcher, but he's more of like your Witten type, right? With he ain't gonna run past anybody. He's not creating separation in the deal. And they already had Ertz there that they had re-signed. So it's like, is McBride even going to be on the field that week? So you look at a lot of this draft. What I'm kind of saying, Brendon, is I feel like they're not going to have a lot of the returns of their draft this next year. That's going to be a problem for us based on what I see from the draft. They don't have DeAndre Hopkins, to your point on that. If Watt's healthy, maybe that gives him a chance. But if Watt isn't healthy, as he can tend to not be as well, this kind of game could be a game where we actually, especially playing at home, have some upper hands here. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm feeling this one. I'm feeling it.
Right.
I'm hesitant to play the home field advantage card because this team hasn't been using it all that well recently. 2 of the last 3 years, they've been basically better on the road than at home.
Good point.
But I'm feeling this one. I'm going to say we take out the Cardinals at home. I kind of wish, it's a trade-off, right? If it was later in the season, then Kyler might be dinged up, but then you'd be getting D-Hop. Although,
and Colt McCoy.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's just showing weakness to say you don't want to play that guy. Like
I've learned, man, there's just certain quarterbacks that slay this Carroll defense. Nick Mullins, Colt McCoy. It's not a long list, Brendon, but it's a true list.
Maybe. But yeah, okay. I'll say we get this one. I feel it.
All right. So we got Brendon's at a solid 3-3
Mm-hmm.
on a rebuild year for our Seattle Seahawks. I am also having us as winning this because this is at home. If this was us on the road, and I'll have us losing the next one here in a second on this. But I will have us go ahead and win this game. DeAndre Hopkins point just puts me over the line on it. I already have us kind of slightly just an inch maybe over the top, but that really kind of pushes me up over the nudge.
Yeah.
So
also, one more thing. Doesn't this kind of feel like this could be like the death year for this Cardinals core?
Yeah.
Maybe not Kingsbury because they just extended him. They're kind of stuck with him. But it feels like the Kyler Murray thing is at a crossroads. And this could be like the last Kobe Shaq year or something almost.
It's going to be a place for us to get into a discussion around a whole show, frankly, Brendon, at some point on discussing quarterback value and the right way to look at this going into the future, because the Cardinals are running into this common issue now that we see year in and year out. To your point, that You got this guy now wanting to get paid. You don't want to pay him yet. You're like, this is too early. We still want to take advantage of your rookie time. I mean, we had 5 years. We had 5 years. It's like that movie, where the guy's like, we had Paris. We had it all. It's like, no, we don't. We have no more time, So they're wanting to pay him. And and I know the second that magically start to kick in that big deal, which is going to be $45 million a year, right? Second that kicks in, they're going to have to make some changes on their roster. They're going to have to make some cuttings. That's the reality of the sport. And when you do that, and if they do prolong and pass this year, Brendon, the cost, just like what happened with Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, it just starts to increase that much more and compound into the next season on how much that cost is going to kick in because you made them wait. Right.
Right. The cap's going way up.
Mm-hmm.
We know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah. Imagine Kyler coming back next year saying, no, I want 60. Make it 60 a year. Even on a big cap, it's like the percentages don't change on that at that point. It's still, way too much to have to pay a guy like Kyler that you have to build so much around. And they've done it again this offseason, Brendon. They've ignored their defense to try to build back up the super offense for him once again. You lose one guy here, then they go, and let's build up around him. It's like, well, guys, what about, and it's skill position guys. They're not hammering as much the offensive line, and they're not hammering almost at all really the defense.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what it does. It's an interesting approach by our Cardinals. I'm just not as certain of what they've been doing this offseason.
It feels a little desperate, doesn't it?
It does. It feels desperate, and it feels a little like to what I've seen from our Hawks at times in the past, where it's, where's the cogent strategy here? It seems like you guys are being reactive and trying by a year-in approach to do whatever you can desperately, and you're being like all in and pushing all your chips in, but you're doing it without any purpose of looking at your actual hand. You're just like, no, we want to be all in, and it's like, what? How is this plan being put together? And that part just doesn't make some. We got teams in this division that do it smart. That team, I've been giving them a lot of credit in recent history, but this last year or so, it started to kind of slide a little bit. And they gave Kingsbury an extension, by the way, right? They gave their general manager an extension this offseason. So we'll see with that one, Brendon. But I got to win. So we've got Brendon's 3-3. I'm 5-1. Mm-hmm. Then we go on the road to the Los Angeles Chargers. Man, that still seems weird to say. That's I don't know if that's ever going to get not weird. Week 7, October 23rd, October 23rd, a 1:25 game in the afternoon. This one I'm not feeling great about, Brendon. Where are you at with this one?
Yeah, I love the way the Chargers are building this team, by the way. I really like it. One last year of the rookie deal for Herbert. Mm-hmm. And I really like the way they're approaching this. They are going all out. They are leaving nothing on the table in regards to giving Herbert a chance to go make a run before he starts making that big money, because Herbert clearly, I think, is one of those guys who will be able to get his big contract the moment he becomes available to do so.
100%.
So they traded for Khalil Mack. So they've got that pretty scary pass rush now with the other Bosa. They've got some good receivers. They've got a Mike Williams. They've got they don't have Hunter Henry anymore, but who do they have? God, I can't remember all their names, but they've got some nice receivers over there. They've got a lot good going on.
Keenan Allen is the one you're thinking.
Keenan Allen. Yeah, Keenan Allen, man, feels like he's been around for a decade, but I know it's not nearly that long.
It's not getting far off, Brendon. He smoked us back in a game I watched in San Diego in 2014. He smoked us in that game. That was the one where that was Brendon. That was when Sherman in his prime, and it's the only time I ever heard a stadium the PA announcer every time Keenan got a catch. Keenan Allen 7 yards, Richard Sherman in coverage. And they didn't do it for anybody else in the game of who was in coverage when that would happen. Just for Richard, I thought it was that's an interesting little bit of shade they threw at him. But I think, would you say it's fair to say the Chargers, if we're talking about winners of this offseason, and we can make 2 or 3 teams as the teams that have operated the smartest and the best this offseason in their approach, we would have to put the Los Angeles Chargers on that list, would we not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I like their coach. I know he made some mistakes last year. He was a rookie. He's got some stuff to learn. But I like the way he looks at the game. I really like what he did with that Rams defense for that year he was there. And I'm gonna say this is one of those weeks where we're gonna have to hold that L. I feel a loss. I don't think there's much getting around it. Also, well, it's late October, but it could be still pretty hot down there. and we have a little bit of experience playing these games in extreme heat, and it doesn't go well for us.
No, they put us in the dark jerseys, and it's bad. And maybe it gets a little bit relieved there, but even still, I think the talent's too good. They also added in the draft, I think one of the safer linemen in this draft, by far the best left guard in this draft, in my opinion, was Zion Johnson. And they added him, and this is on the heels of Rashawn Slater last year, who was the safest left tackle in the draft last season. You start stacking up the safest, best linemen in a draft year after year after year, and you're going to get some good returns on this. Is on top of Corey Linsley last year as a free agent signing. Their line is legit. I love what they've done defensively. They bring in J.C. Jackson. It's Brendon. The moves I love best is when you pair things together. You know, not only when it's a fit of a player to a team, but when this player who's going to help out this player that's going to help out this. You know, Khalil Mack's pressure is going to help out J.C. Jackson and his man coverage on the outside. These linemen are going to help out Herbert in order to have the success he's going to have. When we look for a team that's doing it right, for a model for us to replicate and go, let's follow that pathway to it. The Chargers are showing a nice baseline in their approach. Maybe it doesn't meet out the results for them, okay? Because there are no guarantees. But would you not agree that they're taking as about as smart as of approach as you can take in this, getting the quarterback at the right time, getting the team built around him in the right way? Would you say that's true, or would you see there's some missteps in anything that they've done with him so far?
I think they're doing just about everything right. The only thing they ever did really that I didn't like was that first year when they didn't start him from day one, and that was a different coach. That was can't remember who it was. The guy who couldn't manage the end of a game to save his life. I can't remember who the coach was, but.
God, I can't either.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't like that. I think they were playing Tyrod, and Herbert only got to play because Tyrod's lung got punctured by a needle or something. Remember that?
Oh, I do. Yeah,
died.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah. Herbert came out. Yeah, that was not a good look for the NFL in that one, or their medical staff, at least, is the Chargers. But Herbert came out and just looked amazing in that game. I was watching it live, and I was like, "Holy crap! This kid looks nothing like he did in college right now. It's a different player."
Yeah, we were talking about Herbert in one of my streams the other day about how at Oregon they just didn't allow him to do certain things that would have made him look so much more appealing as an NFL prospect. And sometimes you just can't account for that. There's no accounting for it.
Right. I mean, and that's where you get your troll people, for people that I've seen people go after the people that did evaluations of Herbert coming out, other draft pundits or whatever, and said, "Oh, you said Herbert was going to," and it's like, they can only go off of what they saw. And even if if you see it in even little splashes or little blips, you can maybe, okay, I can project that out. I can teach him to do that. But Herbert didn't show you a lot of what he's had in the NFL level, in the college level, prolonging plays, the throwing on the run, the improvisation. None of it was there on the tape. I mean, none of it. And it's a stark difference at the pro level. So you can't really knock people in their evaluation on that, because that's what he showed. Right. That's why other NFL. That's if he was what he is, then he would not have lasted to pick, what was it, 7, 8, 9 or something.
Yeah. I followed a lot of people on Seahawks Twitter back then, and they all thought he was the next Blaine Gabbert. They were convinced this guy's got no shot.
Yeah.
They didn't see it at all. By the way, some people in chat are saying it's Anthony Lynn was the former Chargers coach. Right. Yeah. And I remember Herbert would come out and look amazing. And it was that I think it was the week 3 or week 4 game against the Chiefs, where the Chiefs barely won in overtime. And Lynn came out and they were talking about Herbert, talking about how good he was. And he was like, well, we still lost. So, it was very weird. Like, he was unnecessarily trying to downplay Herbert in press conferences, which is kind of the opposite of what you would expect a good head coach to do.
Oh, every head coach needs a great quarterback, and a lot of coaches that lose out on their success are coaches who didn't get the quarterback, who had to try to make it do without having that guy. And so, it's an odd behavior not to have embraced that, especially when, to your point on this, the shortcomings of that Charger team was the clock management at the end of the games, and coming back to how the coach was managing things in that respect. I mean, it's real rare you can come back to the coach all the time and point at him and go, you were kind of a bit of the reason that this went sideways at the end, whereas opposed to normally you can say, well, the player blew this block, or this guy was offsides, or there was this holding penalty, or he dropped the ball.
Yeah. There was one game that year, I remember this now, where they had 4th and goal at the goal line, and it was still a relatively close game. There was a minute left, and Herbert did a quarterback sneak, and the entire offensive line dropped back in pass block. It was weird. It was just such a dysfunctional offense at the end of close games. It was very, very weird.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you get yourself fired as a head coach in the league. That's for sure. When you got a great young quarterback and you kind of mess it up, saying, okay, well, we're going to go a different direction. But I agree with you. I like Staley. Staley's going to be, I think, solid for them. That's a good pairing with him and Herbert. And if he can get that defense right, and look, Mac, JC Jackson, they're looking pretty good shape. They still got Bosa there. And I'll tell you, their secondary is kind of underrated. Derwin James, Nasser Adderley, obviously you mentioned JC Jackson, but on the other side, they've also got that kid, the Asante Samuel Jr.
Oh, I forgot about him. That's a good one.
Yeah, he's a good player. I loved him coming out of college. He was just a feisty dog, he's a Seahawks corner type, player in the way he goes about his business. Randall with a $5 donation. Thank you, Randall. I do appreciate it. He says, Russ is going to bring Pete to his knees. Oh, he's going to watch him bleed. I like it.
We'll see. We'll see, man. I mean,
Brendon's not convinced.
I said it's probably going to be a somewhat low scoring game. I think Denver will probably win, but I think it is going to be, I think Pete's going to win some battles on the defense. It's just not going to be enough. Yeah. So I don't know. It could be more of a Bradley Chubb problem going up against rookie tackles.
To me, it's going to be a lot like a lot of these games are going to come down to for us. Are we able to run the ball or not? Or is it a lot of that time where they're telling us they're trying to consistently run the ball, yet it's incredibly inconsistent. And there's some games it's good, some games it's bad. Oh, we got a tough defensive line this week. We're not going to be able to run the ball. It can't be that way this year if we're going to have any kind of margin of success, especially against the Broncos in the opening week. And that is the one place with the Broncos, in my opinion, they've stacked themselves up to be a team that with Russ wants to get on top of you early, get up points, a couple scores up, get you out of a position of not being able to run. And then they've got the pass rushers to pin their ears back and come after you. But they're not exactly the team that if you just want to hammer them up, hammer them in the running game over and over again, that I think necessarily can hold up against that as a defense, or that's built to hold up in that same way as they are with the offensive side of the ball. But it'll be fun to watch, Charles. Monday night, man. I'm gonna be so geeked up for that game, Brendon. All weekend we get to watch the opening weekend. Just thinking about it, that's gonna be nice.
Yeah.
Washington Quest says with $2 donation says, how do you think the guards and centers will shake out? Brendon, you were talking to Phil Haynes. You had me talking. Do you think Phil's is he gonna become undeniable this year, in your opinion?
I think he should play. I think he should. I think the only reason why you would give it to Gabe is experience and the fact that he's making more money. I got to be honest. Like, Gabe was decent last year, but he's probably just going to get worse at this point. He's getting older. He's at the point now where you wouldn't expect him to get better. And I think Phil is a little more capable of doing the things you want offensive linemen to do in the Waldron offense, if I had to guess. So I'm kind of hoping. I think the ideal is Phil Haynes at left and Damian Lewis at right. If they do that and Phil Haynes can stay healthy, it would not surprise me if in 9 months from now, we're saying we've got long-term solutions at starting guard going forward.
And what a tremendous, how great would that be? You're only down to centers. You're only you're set.
Yeah. And as for center, I think we all expect Austin Blythe to be that guy for this year. I don't think he's a long-term solution, but I think it's kind of going to be Blythe one way or the other.
But the nice thing is if you've set the rest of the offensive lineup, especially in that case with those guys, you can go now make your Corey Lindsley signing or Ryan Jensen signing or whatever center you're looking for in the open market. If maybe it's a trade, you can go now find that to be that last stabilizing factor in on that line. And now you're getting a quarterback coming in with just an excellent setup in front of him.
Yeah, I wasn't super blown away with the free agent list for centers next year. Mitch Morse was on it. That was one of the guys who caught my attention. After that, it wasn't great. Austin Reiter, but he's basically not going to play any football for this year, and he didn't last year because of Humphrey. So I don't know. It's not great.
Yeah, I'd look more to where what's in there as far as a trade, maybe, from my standpoint of like, can you get a guy that would have been the, Kelsey type that we've been talking about the last couple of years that suddenly comes to bloom somewhere from some team that they're not wanting to pay him, or, just something happens where you can pluck him from there. The one thing I'll say though too, Brendon, is center is the one of the positions I think on the offensive line that is most set up to be able to kind of go from the jump, because you're doing so much combo blocking, and it's not, to me, as necessarily as tough as it is, let's say, the tackle position, maybe learn along.
Yeah, I think those interior offensive linemen often get off to good starts. I mean, Damian Lewis did, right? That rookie year, he was good, and that's a third-round pick.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and you got Creed Humphrey last year didn't do too bad as a rookie center himself for the Kansas City Chiefs. Being the best graded center in the entire NFL. So, do you think? I mean, you mentioned this point, and I'm just thinking about this a little bit. Like, Phil Haynes has played really well when he's on the field, especially last year. Do you think that they would just look at like, we just can't, we don't want to cut Gabe, so we just got to keep Damian on the field, so we'll just have to keep running these guys? Or do you think they would, if he comes out and really shows out what he did last year, that they would trust him and go with him?
I would hope that you would. I mean, the old Pete Carroll, when he first got here, was the guy who was absolutely willing to say, forget about the money you're making. You're not as good as the guy behind you, so to the bench with you. I think the first thing he did when he got here was cut TJ Houshmandzadeh in his $49 million contract.
Yeah.
I don't care how much money you're making. Get out of here. You're no good to me. I would hope so. I don't have a ton of confidence that he would, but based off what I saw last year, Phil Haynes is maybe overall already a better player than Gabe was last year. It's close.
Yeah.
And Gabe's at the age where I expect a steady decline. So I'm looking at Phil and I'm like, if you can stay healthy, you can be the guy.
Well, and isn't it like you go, I know Haynes is better than Damian Lewis at left guard, and I know Damian Lewis is better than Gabe Jackson at right guard.
Yeah.
I mean, can we kind of quantify it that way and say it's really just sort of that simplistic at the end of the day? I mean, based on what we've seen, obviously things can change over an offseason, and maybe Gabe Jackson is like, I want to fight for my NFL life, and he's doing the Apollo Creed down in the dirty, dingy, basement, just lifting weights and doing pass sets all day. But I don't know. I do worry about that a little bit because they whatever Phil's done to Pete Carroll, I don't know if he said something bad about his wife or pissed him off at some point, but he got in the doghouse. It's like the equivalent of the Shanahan doghouse. You don't get out for a couple of years once you're in.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that makes sense to me is initially he was not a good run blocker, but I feel like maybe that's changed. I thought he was doing pretty good last year. He starting both the I believe it was the last 2 or 3 games when Penny was going off.
Yeah.
So
100%.
that tells me he's doing that.
Yeah, he was doing his job, opening up holes, being good at what he was done, and he's not ever failed going out there. He's never looked like a turnstile going out there, even in his rookie year. He's always been at least relatively solid, and at the very least in pass protection. So you're right. Maybe it's the run blocking thing that's kept him off the football field up until this point. But all that same, you're losing so much by moving Lewis off of his position and keeping Jackson here, and then you have the $3 million you could be saving on Jackson. Brendon, you're sitting on between Jackson, Myers, and Collier. You have $7 million you could free up to go get another player right now if you wanted, and a significant player at that.
Yeah. And at the very least, whoever you get can audition for a year, because whatever Carroll says in a press conference, this is somewhat of a rebuilding year as of right now. I still think that it is.
I agree.
So, if you bring in another kicker and he ends up being just as bad or even worse than Myers, then he's not the guy. Let's go get somebody else for next year. Let's keep going until we find the right kicker.
Right.
Because like I've said it before, even if Myers is good for us this year, he's probably not going to be back in 2023 because his contract's up. So what's the value?
Well, there's certainly not going to be a position to hand him the same contract they gave him on this run, right? We get 2 of the 4 years you're going to be good, and then the other 2 years you're going to be kind of bad. Mm-hmm. That's not exactly worth $4 million a year for us, Jason. So we'll see on that one. Another Barry Soy Toro with a $10 donation. Thank you, Barry. Appreciate you. Says yesterday's ESPN headline: no Denver Broncos player may feel the impact of Russell more than Jerry Jeudy. Today's headline: Jerry Jeudy arrested in Arapahoe County. Russ is straight thugging in Denver.
I didn't think about it like that. Do you think like he was maybe? We got to find out more details of the charge, but I didn't think about it like that.
The whole time he's been gangster Russ, Brendon. He's just been back in the background this whole time, like he's putting on that straight face. That's why he's doing the straight face so hard, right? That's why he's playing this whole the boring robotic thing. Is off screen. He's just like, what, just going off at every turn, checking people, and oh goodness, yeah. Well, I'll tell you this: if they don't have those receivers, man. They need the running game. The running game is going to help Russell a lot with Javonte Williams. He's solid. I think they brought back Gordon, I believe. So their running game should be pretty decent. And that line can run block. But if he doesn't have Judy, and it's Gordon Sutton and the kid they got out of Penn State a couple of years ago is your real options there at the receiving core.
KJ.
Hamler. And doesn't look as quite vibrant as, again, everybody's trying to sell us on when they first went there. And again, Judy had a lot of question marks with some of the fan base in Denver, as far as what I've heard.
Oh yeah, Tim Patrick too. I should give him a shout out because Tim Patrick's nice. Yeah,
he's all right. Yeah, he's decent, but it's definitely he's going to be relying on those guys if they don't, he's going to need them. But we'll see. Maybe Judy will be out if it's domestic violence. NFL doesn't mess around with that, so he could.
Unless it's Tyreek.
That what?
Unless it's Tyreek Hill.
Unless it's Tyreek, that's right. Unless you're a cheetah. Thank you for the $10 donation, Barry. That's hilarious. Charles Riley, the $5 donation says, honestly, never knew the inspiration for the incredible banger was the Kingdom or the other tidbit Brendon brought up about it. Nice work, Killer Bees. He's talking about the Welcome to the Jungle deal. Charles. I didn't know either until last night, man. Somebody was informing me on it. So it's gonna make me look at that song now every time I hear it in a way different way. Was Axel like up in the 300 section of the Kingdom, like penning some of the lyrics on one day or something? Like, this is like a concrete jungle. You know where you are. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Well, thank you for the donation though, Charles. Would you replace Welcome to the Jungle with the Bittersweet Symphony? You like the symphony?
I don't feel any attachment to it, so I would totally be happy to move on from it. So yeah, I would be for that. I think Welcome to the Jungle's a better song.
I think Bittersweet Symphony is not hyping anybody up, Brendon. I think it's putting people to sleep, like elevator music type stuff. And we got to get these people in the stadium back to getting hyped and raucous and, just loud. And that kind of song is going to get everybody up on their feet, get everybody going. We've got to get a petition going, I'm telling you. Thank you, Not For Sale, for the $5 donation. Appreciate it. You guys are being very kind on the chat. This roster is better than Pete's first 2 years when we went 7-9 back-to-back with Hasselbeck and T-Jack. You with that, Brendon?
I mean, maybe, but the division is much better. That's the thing that I'm going to point out. That division in 2010, you had, I think the Niners started 0-7 that year, and then they kind of got a little bit better, but they were terrible. Cardinals were terrible. They might have had John Skelton starting at quarterback. That might have been one of those years.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the Rams, the first Sam Bradford year, and they were bad. They weren't terrible, but they were bad.
That's right. And just to jump on top of your point on that, you do not only play the 6 games against the NFC West this year, Not For Sale, you got the toughest division in football that you're playing 4 games against. And I think we go as we'll see in the schedule here, I think we're going to go 1-3 in those games. So it's your statement's true. It's just that other side of it, it's such a harder hill for us to climb than what we had to climb back then where things were at.
Yeah, we actually played the AFC West that year too. That was the year the Chargers had like the best offense and the best defense, and then they missed the playoffs because their special teams were historically bad.
Yeah, that was a couple year thing for Chargers where they couldn't get their special teams right for a few years.
Yeah, that was the Leon Washington game. He had 2 kickoff return touchdowns.
It's always great when it takes you multiple years to get your special teams right. It'll be interesting with the Packers, by the way, because they just had this bad snafu with their special teams this past year, and they've been bitching and moaning about it all off season. We'll see if they actually address it this upcoming year, if they let that thing go stagnant. It makes me kind of at least appreciate it, though. We know our special teams crew will be good no matter what. Like Carroll always has a good unit he draws out there.
Yeah, and when they're not good, he takes care of it fairly quickly.
Right. He's going to find a way to rectify it. He's not going to just sit on and be like, oh, that doesn't matter. He does value that aspect of the team. When there's some coaches that really do look at it as like this also ran part of their team that they'll deal with if they really have to. Mm-hmm. But thank you guys for all the donations. Very kind of you guys to do so. Let's pop back over here onto the schedule, Brendon. So if I'm not mistaken, we just passed week 7.
Yes.
I've got us at 5-2. You are at, is it 3-4?
3-4. 3-4.
You're 3-4 at this point. So we get on to week number 8, and we are playing at home with the New York Giants. 125 game.
October if there's 3rd. any team in the league that needs to throw away this season, it's got to be this Giants team, right? I know they had a good draft, but that is a team that was maybe the worst team in the league last year, and they were capped out. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. And I'll say this right now. I'm licking my chops a little bit over this game, maybe more than any other game we played this year, in terms of this could be a game where we just go off.
Yeah, this is a chop licker. Definitely a chop licker. It's the Giants team talked about this offseason of going out and addressing and getting Daniel Jones help and really meaning it, I felt like, with their purpose of let's address the offensive line. They didn't do so, really, in my opinion. Instead, you even look at the draft, which I think it was a very good draft, but you're still not really getting the line in the way that they needed to do it, in my opinion, which is like we've talked about. They learned the lesson the hard way, Brendon, of getting the quarterback first before you get your offensive line in place. And now they're trying to rectify it, but only partially rectify it. And then you factor in again on top of it, Bradbury's release now, which is going to weaken that secondary. And you start to go, okay, I'm looking at this situation going, this should be at home, a win for us. I think this will be a kind of a nice breather game for us in the midst of having to take on, a couple of, you've had a couple of division games. You have the Saints, Cardinals, Chargers before this. It's a little bit of a breather game in there. So this gets you to 4-4. I'm riding high. My Seahawks team's riding high at this point, Brendon, because I'm 6-2 at this point. You're 4-4. I'm 6-2. Then we're going to the Cardinals on November 6th. We've got this is again a 1:00 game. A lot of 1:00 games. Not a lot of prime times here, Brendon. We're missing some prime times this year. I'm noticing on the schedule.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It'll motivate the team to get better quicker.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Damn Skippy. So we're going November 6th to Arizona. We do relatively well in recent history in Arizona. We've got DeAndre Hopkins back on the case here, off of his suspension now by this point. How do you see this particular game going?
This one's kind of tough. Yeah, we are going to have Hopkins back, although with the way things have been going for him, you can't depend on him to stick around for long. True. He's been missing some time lately, but let's say they have him. I don't know. I'm not really feeling this one. Of course, Arizona, even though we've had some success down there lately, it is occasionally a house of horrors.
Especially the injuries.
Yeah, more than losing, actually. We usually win, but we usually kind of wish we didn't win.
We win the battle, but we lose the war.
Yeah. This one's tough. My instinct says we're probably going to drop this one, but this is another game I could see going either way.
Yeah, I'm going to go loss on this one. I think you split this with Arizona. You get the home game early. No Hopkins. That's the one that kind of pushes me over. He comes back. I think he's enough to kind of get them in position there. We do good there, but it's just kind of the nature where I think, obviously I still don't see this team going out and getting 11 or 12 wins. So I've got to find some losses here on the schedule somewhere. And I think this is as likely a spot as anywhere coming after the Giants win, maybe a little bit of a point for a letdown, right? You just had an easy win. You're thinking we're a little better. Maybe we are. You get to this point, you're like, okay, and it eases down. So, all right. So you're 4-5. I am now 6-5. We're getting closer to each other.
That can't be right. I think you're 6-3, right?
6 and
I'm
3.
4-5.
There we go.
Okay.
You're 4-5. I'm 6-3. Okay. Then we are going to Germany. Brendon, you want to go to Germany? Yeah.
I mean, in a season like this, we may as well do something a little bit fun.
Let's do it.
Unfortunately, it's not very fun to wake up at 6:30 to watch a football game. So for me, no, not so much.
I am not going to be loving life on that. I don't know about you, but I'm not a morning person. I am not at all.
No, not at all.
I hate life in the morning, and I'm going to be an angry elf come this game. Tampa Bay, man, what can you say? Tampa Tom's coming back. We don't know if they're getting Gronk back yet. They've had a couple losses this offseason on the interior of their line. They've tried to replace it a little bit as well. They've made some good signings in addition to that. You're on a neutral field here instead of at Tampa Bay. They can't get you with the sun like you were talking about a little bit with the Charger team and how they do that. They do the same thing down there in Tampa Bay where they'll put you in the hot jerseys. They'll hot jersey you on a game when you're in the sun. Whew. Can our Seahawks go and take down Tampa Bay? Can we do it?
This is a kind of an interesting one. It sounds like we might have a little bit of a home field advantage. Sounds like there are going to be more Seahawks fans than Buccaneers fans.
We're huge in
Germany. So that's
nice. Huge.
But
we're like Ramstein in Germany. We're like that big.
Yeah. I don't know. A run first team seems like a bad idea against this Tampa Bay unit. They take away your running game, and it's hard to circumvent that for this team, I think. Vita Vee's probably going to make life very hard for us, and we have the kind of team that might just keep running into the brick wall over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So combine that with Tampa Bay's offense, which should be good again. I know they lost AB. I know, honestly, even if they get Gronk back, I don't think that changes anything. He does not look like he's having very much fun out there anymore.
No, he's definitely dragging that body along.
Yeah, I don't even know why he wants to come back, honestly, at this point. But I'm gonna say a loss. I'm gonna say something like, I'll say like 30-20, something like that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm feeling.
I agree. And wouldn't you probably say that if you are going to be Tampa Bay, you probably have got to be able to put up a good amount of points to do so. Like Tom's going to get his, you've got to be able to match it. And neither of us probably have much confidence that the offense is going to be able to match those point for point with Tom. They can get to maybe a certain point, but they're going to be limited in this kind of game against this kind of defense. Fair?
Yeah, I think that's an accurate assessment. They're going to get their points. Although, again, I want to stress, I think this defense will be good this year.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the pieces are not going to be all the way there yet. Like, for instance, Mafe. I'm not expecting Mafe to be a dominant rookie. I'm expecting him to take some time. We're still going to have guys like Cody Barton starting at interior linebacker and look for Tampa Bay to take advantage of that. There are some things we still need to do next offseason on this defense. So I'm not expecting them to be amazing. And I'm going to say it's just not going to be quite good enough in a game like this.
I think that's fair. I'm with you on it. I'd go even. I think we lose by 2 touchdowns in this game on the road. I do think we do have a huge Germany contingent. We'll have way more Seahawks fans in that stadium than Buccaneers fans. And props to my German folks for showing up there. But unfortunately, the team's just not ready to quite compete. I think with these elite teams in this NFC at this moment, this upcoming season, just not quite calibrated unless some things really break our way right. Chase Stern with a $10 donation. Thank you, Chase Stern. Very kind of you. Man dropped a 50 dono on me last night and they're 10. Thank you so much, man. He says, I swear if the Giants beat us with a backup quarterback, I'm going to lose it.
I'm not going to lose it. That'll signal that we're a really, really bad team that is going to get a really, really good draft pick. So honestly, if we're bad enough to lose to the Giants with, I don't know who their backup quarterback is now. It can't be Mike Glennon. There's no way they brought that guy back.
No, they got somebody else. I forget. They signed somebody else, I think, this offseason. I can't remember his name.
It might have been. Was it Bridgewater? No. I can't remember who. But anyway, yeah, if we lose that game to a backup quarterback, then at that point, I'll just be like, well, this truly is the tank year. And okay.
I mean, Tyrod Taylor, that's who you were trying to think. I think I knew there was somebody you were trying to pinpoint there. Old Tyrod, old lung Tyrod, lung rod.
Yep. Almost died.
Almost died from medical mal. I wonder if he got what do you think got paid? The NFL definitely gave him a check on that one, right? They definitely were like, let's not bring this up ever again. Okay, let's just here you go. Here you go, Tyrod. Just there you go. I lost my job. Okay. Yeah, one of those things.
Yeah, they got money to spend in the NFL.
I think Brendon brings up a great point, and they do. Yeah, they especially have probably a slush fund for when they got to clean up messes. Brendon brings up a really good point here. And an NDA, by the way, I'm sure you'd have to sign if you had that as well. That's why we probably haven't heard anything about it. Is like just sign the NDA and take the check. But Brendon brings up a good point here, man. Chase, this year is a bonus year for us. If we win, it's great. If we lose, it's not great, but we know it's just that much better of a pick and that much, closer to getting back to being great. It's just a matter of time really for us to be great is what we're kind of trying to say here. So, it's, if you do lose these games, it's like, yeah, that's disappointing, but hey, one lower rung, you're down on the draft positioning, one closer spot up to that number 1 pick, one closer spot up to getting one of those quarterbacks in this draft. And boy, Brent, I don't know if you're doing some cursory looks around the scene on these quarterbacks coming out next year's draft, but I'm hearing over under at like 5-6 in a first round. And I was not hearing that same type of thing in recent years as it's concerned the quarterback position, which is telling.
Yeah, the Cam Ward stuff seems a little presumptuous, though. I'll say that. I know he's starting to get top 10 hype. That seems a little. He's the new Wazoo quarterback.
Oh yeah, I've had a few people that are hyping him up. I haven't watched any tape. Have you checked him out?
I looked at him a little bit, not really enough to say too much about it, but he was playing at a college that I think was smaller than Lenore Ryan last year, and he's transferring. So
Oh.
it seems like people are getting a little ahead of themselves on this one, but it would be a pretty cool story, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that the nice thing is you have a base here of guys that you know for sure will be like, I think in the top 15 picks, you're going to see Young, Stroud, and Levis. And then you've got guys now on the outside like Van Dyke, the kid from Auburn, Richardson, um, Jerkovic from Boston College. There's a variety of other guys that could start to kind of vault themselves into that discussion too.
All right, I just found it. Cameron Ward's former college is Incarnate Word.
Oh,
Incarnate
that
Word.
powerhouse, Brendon. That's like that's the central southern.
I don't know where these names
College
come
program.
from.
I don't
Where
either.
do
How do
these
you come
names
up with
come
it?
from?
Like and that's the one you were like, this will roll off the tongue, right? Like people will want to say, I went to this college. What was it? What was the name?
Incarnate, like evil incarnate, and
Yeah.
then Word, WORD.
Where'd you go? Incarnate Word.
Mhm.
No, I mean, where did you go? No, I went to the University of Incarnate Word. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to hire you. Sorry.
Yeah.
that's how
No.
that's how that job interview goes.
Rather go
No.
to the University of American Samoa.
Exactly. That sounds bad. At least they're like, wow, you had to be tough. I bet going there. Like it sounds like you went through something maybe to go through that one. I don't know. Yeah, that's a weird one there. But thank you, Chase. Thanks for the donation on that one, Chase. I really do appreciate it. Make sure I'm caught up on these real quick here. Okay, so we are into the bye week now, Brendon. We got through Germany. You've got us at 4-7,
6.
4-6,
4-6. Yes.
and I'm at 6-4. Right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, so we're getting closer here together between the scores and how this is kind of bearing out, which is cool. And yeah, what is nice though, Brandon, I do think we're at least going to get some quarterbacks this year. We're going to actually have some guys to really choose from. So, and Jerkovic, by the way, looks like Matt, huh?
Yeah, I'm starting to get turned on to these guys too. We were talking about KJ Jefferson, I think his name was.
That's
in
my
the
next
chat
one. Yeah.
yesterday. Yeah, one of my chatters compared him to like Dante Culpepper.
Okay.
I there's going to be some guys definitely. I think we both know who our favorite is right now, but that could change, and there are going to be multiple options. We might not have to trade up.
Yeah. No, that's to me the beauty of this 5 to 6 rounds is let's talk just really quickly about this. If you are a team with needing a game manager, the reliance upon needing a game-changing talent at the quarterback position is reduced. And if that's the case, the need to go get the top guy on the board in a draft and the best of the best it's not as necessary, is it, Brendon? I mean, it's more now you just let that. If it's the first round quarterback, it's the Justin Fields of 2 years ago, you take the Justin Fields of 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you say?
And yeah, and also in a draft like this one that's upcoming, the fourth quarterback off the board could easily be the best quarterback. Like, I think a lot of people right now expect CJ Stroud and the Bryce Young to be 1 and 2. Right. I'm not that into either of those guys. It would not shock me if there were multiple other first round quarterbacks better than both of them. So I don't dread the possibility of getting QB4 at all.
And we've seen that in past history, right? I think wasn't the Mahomes draft that was the Trubisky draft where he wasn't that the one he was ahead of him, and Deshaun
and Watson,
Watson too. So you've had times where guys do fall that maybe you shouldn't fall for whatever the reason. And again, Seattle can be to me more of opening this door on possible quarterbacks, Brendon, because they're not looking for the guy that's got to have this. It's like Wilson's skill set with the Jets and what they're going to want him to do in his shades of Aaron Rodgers comparison that he had coming out, where you're going to want him to maybe throw a little bit more. Whereas your guy, you're just going to ask him, can he be a game manager? Just a little easier to go find that skill set, especially if he's got some elite tools like maybe mobility and the ability to make the throws you're wanting him to make within the context of your offense. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, Brendon. Yeah. I'm so stoked that they didn't get a quarterback in this draft. I'm glad we don't have Desmond Ridder or Malik Willis right now. And that's what I'm saying, really.
Yeah. I don't think any quarterback in this draft would any of them even be like top 100 in next year's draft?
No. I mean, it's and we don't
And
know
they
the
were
reason
barely
behind the
100 in this draft, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this draft, no. I mean, even the NFL teams told you in this draft, no. And you had quarterback needy teams like Atlanta and Carolina that still waited all the way into the third round for their Corral and Ritter picks. I mean,
Mhm.
how goes to the fifth or sixth, whatever. It's just like, dude, they were telling you NFL teams these guys were just not good enough. And good on Seattle
Yeah.
not to. It's one reason I say, Brendon, you got to on top of this draft's picks on the guys you got to also add in that one other element of the mind you avoided. You didn't take you didn't waste a pick on a quarterback who wasn't good enough that you're going to have to go back and address one more year from now, who will be much more better at the position.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I would feel very differently about this team's position if we had taken a quarterback.
100%, 100%. It would cause you to look at the draft in a way different light. All right, so we got through the bye. We're going to rest up here on week 11 after we come back from Germany because the flight lag, all that stuff's tough. You get to week 12. We've got an old AFC nemesis, an old AFC West nemesis, the Oakland Raiders, coming into Ruhlman Field on November 27th. Another 1:00 start time game here. Josh McDaniels taking over for the Raiders this year. They've brought in Chandler Jones, Devontae Adams. Certainly was a good team last year. In addition to that, Carr seems to be kind of just getting even just a titch better every year here and there, just a tiny bit, it seems like, and him with McDaniels.
Yeah.
You buying that pairing, by the way?
I
McDaniels
mean,
and Carr?
I don't know. I don't think Carr's ever going to get back to what he was in before he broke his leg, right? I feel like that was the best version of Derek Carr, but he's still good. It's still very weird to me that he gets paid top QB money, but I guess that's just what it is at this point.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna have McDaniels had better learned. He had better learned a lot over the last 10 years because that first head coaching stint, I mean, you want to talk about disasters. Like wow.
The egos on some of these young coaches when they take their first jobs, it's like showing out of their ears. It's so thick, and you go, "This is your first job. You've been a coordinator. You haven't proven anything yet. You know what? Huh? Give me a break."
Yeah, all these Belichick disciples think everyone's gonna listen to them and do whatever they say because they're a Belichick disciple, and no, Joe Judge tried to do that kind of, and like
Yeah.
you're not the guy who won 10 Super Bowls. That was Belichick. You held his clipboard. I'm not listening to you.
That's right. Miami coach too, right? Like the guy, I'm forgetting his name, and I know there's a lot that goes into that whole firing beyond this, but he was also a guy renowned for some of how he was dealing with people down there in Miami recently. What's that
Mhm.
coach? He's just sued the league.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. It's actually the guy that we kept talking about wanting to get as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So I feel bad that I can't remember his name all of a sudden. But Matt Patricia was another guy like that too, I think, as
Right.
a head coach. He just
100%.
thought, oh, you guys are going to respect me automatically because everything I did holding Belichick's clipboard.
Yeah.
Brian Flores, by the way. Brian
That's it.
Flores.
Yeah, Brian Flores. So I mean, you got a history of this with these guys like this. Hopefully, Josh has learned. He certainly is a smart offensive mind, and he knows how to build. I think an offense that's going to take advantage of Carr's traits. Devontae Adams and those guys back together. Him and Adams, they obviously have a pretty cool rapport going on, and Chandler Jones is going to help their pass rush out, no doubt about that. How do you see this game going at home?
This is kind of a tough one. Coming off the bye week, coming off a couple losses, I'm gonna say we win this one. I'm gonna say this is one of the ones we kind of
Oh,
steal.
okay.
I'm feeling like we can steal this one. It's at home. I'm not really a huge believer in what the Raiders are doing. I like some of it, but I don't think all of it's going to pay off to the degree that it is. I believe that the Raiders are the worst team in their division. I think they've done obviously some things that are probably going to be pretty effective. Like I think the Chandler Jones thing will pay off at least for a year. Devontae Adams, obviously, he's incredible, but I don't know. I feel like this is one of the games where you win as an underdog. Kind of like those games we had at the end of 2011, right? Where we started out real bad and then we won 4 in a row and the team was actually playing really well. I think this could be kind of a game where you start to see that process, maybe not to that extent, but start to play itself out again.
I like it. So you got us kind of just edging this one out at the end, kind of.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna say we get a lot of pressure on Carr, and when he gets pressured, things he kind of falls to pieces a little bit. So I'll say we win.
All right. So you got the win. I'm gonna go with a loss here because I just have in my mind us going 1-3 kind of against the AFC West. And I think that this matchup, Josh McDaniels will attack with the short stuff and go after our zones. And Carroll's definitely predilection to trying to keep up against the deep ball. Um, and we'll see. It's definitely a game we could win. So this is a winnable game of these NFC West matchups versus, let's say, Kansas City and the Charger game, which I don't think we've got a great chance in either of those two affairs. So that goes 6-5 to me. You're 5-6. Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I'm 6-5. Brendon's 5-6. Charles with a donation on the chat here. Thank you for all the donations today, Charles. He says, Killer Bees. You have this chat brainstorming the replacement song for Bittersweet Symphony, and at Jacoby Bell had the idea of a fan vote. Let this happen. Can you put a vote up on StreamYard?
That's really on StreamYard? Okay, we could do that, but a fan vote in general is a really bad idea. Do not do that. Because there's basically a 99% chance Never Gonna Give You Up is gonna win if you actually like open a poll. I know how these things work.
We will. We'll get rickrolled, Charles, if we put this, if we let it just open up to the public on anything. But yeah, we could do a poll. I don't know that you do it in StreamYard. I don't think you can do it, but I think
maybe you can't.
I think we can do it as a community post on the YouTube thing, Charles. So maybe we'll try to come up with some song ideas on that. I'm telling you, man, Welcome to the Jungle. If it's literally written about Seattle and it's the song that popular about the Kingdom, or at least, then you gotta. I don't care if since he's been using it. To hell with him. You know, the 12th man was being used by Texas A&M. We still took that. So, you know, if it works, it works. That's all I'm saying. Thank you for the donation, though, Charles. I appreciate you, man. And we'll try to. I'll put something on the community post on it. Can't do it on this, but I can do it in the little community post thing. Okay, so we're getting close to our records, Brendon. And we started out diametrically opposed here. We're kind of going in different directions here a little bit as we go along. Week 13, we get one of our other nemesises in this division of ours. We go on the road into Los Angeles, the place where we will never get a call in human history from any umpire or referee. 1 o'clock game here, Brendon. Rams riding high after their Super Bowl win. God, I hate saying that. I really don't like saying that, man. I think got a chap pass. I'm trying to get through my system here. Yeah. Where do you see this one going?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a problem, right? The Rams, regardless of what some of us were maybe hoping would happen, they did not have to blow it up in the wake of their Super Bowl win. They were actually able to probably enhance their roster a little bit, bringing in Allen Robinson. I think they signed a safety. I can't remember who it was. They re-upped Stafford. Now that the salary cap ramifications are going to be felt later on that one, but they're still going to be really good. So I don't see why anything would change this year. I mean, one of the things about our two Rams games last year were that Wilson really played poorly in both games, and that was one of the reasons we lost. But I don't see any reason why that would change with a Drew Lock or Geno Smith or whoever. Although Geno played okay against the Rams last year, I guess he did his thing.
He came in there and lit it up for a second.
Yeah. I will say, though, it seems like a few years too late, Carroll is starting to have some idea of how to slow down that Rams offense. Last several games we have played against the Rams, we're starting to see positive results when we go up against that offense. I wouldn't be shocked if that continued to carry over, but I don't think it's going to be enough to win.
Yeah, I think it's certainly changing the scheme from how McVay stood at the head of the line with his Seattle beater plays, the crossing concepts, the flood zone concepts. It's not been like he's operated, Brendon, with a high diversity of different plays to attack us. He'll sometimes just hit us with the same thing over and over again, but it's like Kelnick hitting a curveball. Just if you can't hit it, you can't hit it. I'm going to keep throwing it until you do. And they, with this new defense, should be more built, I think, to be able to counter that, because the Rams aren't going to be able to predict, part of your flood zone concept, right? Like if you're going to run a guy through a zone and then bring another guy up under the zone afterwards, you're doing that type of play because you're predicting where the zone coverage is going to be. I know this linebacker is going to drop to this spot on this play, and therefore I can run this guy through because this guy struggles with zone coverage like a Jordan Brooks. So I can run him out, bring the other receiver underneath, and it's going to be easy peasy. And I can do that over and over and over. But if I've got split safety looks and the safeties are dropping in different spots and maybe they're playing a little differently with their fronts and the gap and a half stuff that they're doing and a little bit of that maybe you can catch the Rams a little more surprised. And it's not so just, easy. We don't even have to think about this. We don't have to prepare. We know how to beat you. We've known how to beat you for the last 4 years. I wonder if maybe this will be one of the places that really does give you a little bit of a return on. At least not as far as helping you win, by the way, Brendon, but just again, to your point, not making it to where at times you just don't look like you have any answers to stopping that offense, which at times you haven't when it comes to those, especially those flood zone concepts.
Right. I mean, last year I think both games the defense played at least okay, not the best, but they did some very good things, and it still didn't win then. So I don't know why that would change yet. But that being said, it is a new defense, and hopefully by this point in the year they've worked the kinks out. But it is a different defense than the one we've run for a while.
Very true. Very true. And you never know if we're in this at this point, maybe they'd, even if they're sitting on a little bit of cap space as we're getting just before this trade deadline in this game, you never know. Maybe they end up making a little bit of a trade too, if they think that not a trade that's going to risk anything in the future, I'm saying, but just to, one of those guys that suddenly becomes available that they could, fit in and find a use for, as they have in the past at times. So I do have this as a loss on my end, Brendon. You do land at the end of the day as a loss as well in this one.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of optimism for that one. No.
All right. So this puts, I believe, me at 6-6, and this puts you at
5-7.
5-7. Okay. So I'm 6-6. You're 5-7. That's right. Right. Yeah.
That sounds about right.
All right. Then we go next week. We are back at home we're actually at home. Interesting here, Brendon. We're at home for 4 of the back 5 games of the schedule. Maybe we should just discuss this really quickly. As if you are in a position here to go for it at the end, that is helpful. As I know you mentioned earlier to a rightful point, the home field advantage has been lessening by the year here recently. No doubt about that. But you also have a COVID year in there. And it does help to have 4 of those last 5 games at home is certainly not going to, hinder things for us.
I kind of wish this was a season where we were going for it a little bit, knowing that, right? Like,
100%. Well said. Yeah.
And not that there was necessarily anything we could have done to make it a go for it year, but kind of makes me wish we were taking advantage of it. Overall, though, I want to say I think our schedule is one of the top 8 toughest in the league still. So it's still not overall great, but this little wrinkle is nice.
Yeah. It would be optimal if you were a contending team to be able to go down that stretch that way. And it's got a couple tough opponents in there, but not murderer's row with the Jets and the Panthers in there and the Niners that you've tended to play strong. So it's, it'll be interesting to see where we are, Brendon. I mean, this year, if they are in a competitive state, to be able to make that back end run, that doesn't give them a little bit of an advantage, a built-in advantage this year. Even though we both are probably, thinking this is going to be a little bit of a middle of the road, mediocre type team in the really the way the final record will play out. But it'll just be kind of an interesting wrinkle. And I don't remember last time I saw us ending a season out with 4 or 5 games at home. Do you? With that many?
No, I assume mathematically it just doesn't happen very often for any team.
Yeah, no, not at all. All right, so we've got the Panthers on this one. The Panthers have added not a whole lot this offseason, I believe, if I'm not
They didn't have any draft picks. They had nothing to work with.
And they still are rocking with Sam Darnold, and they also brought in Matt Corral. Are we going to get the Corral experience? Am I going to get to laugh at Corral in this game? So that
by this part of the season, you might.
Thank God we didn't draft that kid. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. So the Panthers have a very legitimate defense. They don't have a lot of they're one of those defenses that Burns is kind of on the edge of being a star type, but they're not really star filled as much as they're solid filled. It's just got good parts all across the board. They're definitely going to be tough to run on. They've got guys like Derek Brown up front that are going to be, run pluggers in there that you're just not going to be able to go up the middle of the defense on that. It's a tough game, but you are playing at home for me. Where do you see this one going?
This seems like the kind of game that could end at a 10-7 or 9-6. That's kind of what I'm feeling, which probably means it won't go that way, but bet the under, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah.
At home, other team has no quarterback. I think our defense will be pretty good, especially by this point in the season. I guess I'll say we probably win this one. I guess. I don't feel amazing about it, but it's at home. Carolina's flying across the country. Sure. Let's go with it.
I think McCaffrey's moved by this point too, by the way.
Or he's broken down. Either way, you're not going to have to deal with him. There's
Either
no
or.
way he stays healthy. Yeah.
Either or. So
Yeah, maybe he'll have moved to the announcing booth or something because he'll retire because he's made of glass.
Yeah, he's definitely wore out. They wore that kid out with like 200, 400 touches a season for a couple seasons. Like that's just going to kill guys that are 5'11", 205 pounds. You just can't. That's not going to work on that. You know.
Who was the play caller who was behind that little travesty? Was that Norv Turner?
Was Norv still there at that point? It might have been. It might have been him. Yeah, it might have been. They did him dirty a little bit with that. They paid him at least, so he got his money. But I just like the way they utilized him in that way. I had thought too with McCaffrey, honestly, my hand on God, if I being honest with you, he should have just been a receiver from the jump. Guy would have a 14-year career as a wide receiver in this league. He's going to have a 6-7-year career as a running back because he's going to wear down so quickly.
Yeah. I was doing a look at running backs in the NFL recently and at what point they break down. And for a lot of guys, it was around 1,400 touches. Like I was looking at Derrick Henry. He kind of broke down last year. He didn't have a big year. I was doing it because people were talking about trading for Kamara, and I was saying he just got to about 1,400 touches. This is what happens to all these running backs at 1,400 touches. McCaffrey, like he's not even at 1,000 yet, and he's already like just toast.
Yeah, and it's honestly the bloodlines are on this as well. His father, Ed McCaffrey, a really big receiver with a really long neck, who used to just really punish the Seahawks when we played him, but a guy who also really had a hard time with staying on the football field, just really was broken down a lot and beaten up and really was always fighting through some kind of injury. It's odd Christian took that route rather than like, even at the combine, they were saying when he was running wide receiver drills, like he's running better routes than any of the wide receivers here. And again, his father was a wide receiver, so he had the whole upbringing of knowing how to do that stuff, being trained and built in from his dad, I'm sure. But be interesting to see what they do with him. They were going to try to trade him this offseason. They were asking for a first-round pick plus for him, which nobody's going to do that to have to be paying a guy $11 million base. But yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see him moved here at some point, one way or another, because they're obviously kind of ready to probably move on. All right, so we are into week 15 here. I'm at 7-6, and you are at.
I think 6 and 7. So we're right there.
7. We're right there. We are right there. So we're getting into the next week here with our second game against the 49ers here. We finally get a primetime game for the first time since week 1 against the Broncos. So quite a long wait there, but it looks like it's a Thursday night game on a short week here. That's kind of nice after the Panthers, if that can be a game they can kind of easily win to then have that time to set up for the Niners. But how's this game going from your perspective?
Well, I like getting the Thursday night games at home. That usually is a pretty big advantage to not have to play on the short week on the road. But by this point in the season, the Niners might be cooking, kind of like they did last year. Yeah. So that running game might be humming. They'll probably have figured out whatever the best thing for them to do at quarterback is, be it Jimmy or Trey or Brock Purdy, I guess. I'm still kind of rooting for that. Could you imagine if the guy they traded 3 first-round picks for never ends up playing for them, and then the Mr. Irrelevant becomes their starter?
I've watched them put Brendon and I completely healthy on the sideline for whole games at a time. I've watched them last year with 3rd-round pick Trey Sermon not even allow him to get on the football field. So other teams, I'd say there's no chance of that, Brendon. But in Shanahan's case, he's just the type of guy who's like, and he's got enough earned. You can't do that as a coach if you're on the hot seat, or if you're, the ground under you is a little unstable, and it's because he has the ground so stable underneath him, he can do whatever the hell he wants. And if he likes Purdy, you got an awful Purdy mouth. If he thinks it's that, then you're going to get the Purdy experience, man.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not really feeling this one. I know Pete kind of owns Shanahan, but I'm going to say we split with the Niners, and I'm going to say that we actually no, wait. I'm saying actually, I think this is the year we get swept by the Niners. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man.
Boy.
Brennan's going dark.
That doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. I think the Niners by this point in the season are going to be really rolling.
I think you're onto something with this, especially a physical teams with the running game. When it stops being hot, once it starts being cold, once the bodies are starting to wear down, this is when the effects of these physical teams that can run the ball start to really bear out their best fruits. So I'm with you on this. I had us winning in the open game. I do have us splitting with the Niners in this particular year because we don't have Russ Magic to save us in one of the games like we've had in the past. So I will go with this as being a very close loss game, though. Your point about being the Thursday night at home factor, though, again, then I come out and I go, but the Niners are only having to come up the coast like a 30-minute flight to get to us. So that's also where it's like maybe that makes it easier for them as well in the other bend. I'm just kind of on the loss point though there. Where so that I go all right, so you're 6-8, I believe, and I'm 7-7 where I'm at right now. We
We're
do
right
have
there.
We're right there. We got another donation here from CJ Kurzman with a $5 donation. Thank you, CJ. Took a little while for me to acknowledge that. I apologize. He says, hey, guys, Seattle playing Tampa in Germany, of course. From Seattle's perspective, is this the longest travel distance for an NFL game in history? Did we ever go to Asia for an exhibition? Remember they did that in the 80s and 90s for a while? They did a couple of
I mean, I don't personally remember that. So
Am I showing
I
my
couldn't
age there?
speak to that.
Am I showing my gray beard here, Brendon?
I didn't know that though.
They did a couple. I don't know if we did it, but I know that there was teams for a while in exhibition. They'd run a team. They do this in baseball sometimes too, where they run out, teams out there into that area. But if it's not that, then yes, because obviously this is much further than London, and there's nowhere else that going to Toronto or whatever is not going to compete. So by far it would be, CJ. By far,
it would kind of have to be, yeah.
It'd kind of have to be. It's about as far as you can go to play. I don't know where else. Russia, maybe. I don't know. It's probably even farther than Russia, though, because you could just go the opposite way and shorten it down if you had to.
The boon.
Not that Russia's going to be hosting any NFL games anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you get to a certain point. Like if you go to if it's like China or Japan, then you're just going the other way and it's not as bad.
Exactly. It's like it shortens up if you reverse the course on it a little bit.
We're waiting for Elon Musk to build a stadium on Mars.
That's it.
And that'll be the new record whenever that happens.
Exactly. They'll have the speed of light vessels to get our players there. So there's no space lag. That's what they'll call that, space lag.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we continue forward here. We've got another primetime game here on. Does that say what the hell? Does that say Saturday, Brendon? Yeah, it's
Saturday.
Christmas. Okay, all right. My eyes are not failing me. Again, back to the AFC West, an old rival, bringing back all those old memories of 80s, 90s football, going into Kansas City. Another 10 a.m. game on Saturday. Boy, this is going to be rough on our team. Not only 10 a.m., not only on a short week, but you're also having to travel out to Kansas City. Whew. Unless Mahomes isn't playing, this is going to be a tough one, Brendon.
Yeah. And I mean, look, if Kansas City gets off to a slow start, then you got to figure by this point they're going to be rolling a little bit. I've said it before. I still would pick Kansas City to win that division. Because they have such a big advantage at coach. Always been a big Andy Reid fan. Always had a lot of respect for him and the way he does things. And I'm not seeing too much good happening here. I'm going to just say it. I can't imagine us finding a way to win this game unless Mahomes is not playing for some reason. And honestly, even then, like you're going into Arrowhead. Arrowhead is... Wow. Have we won a game in Arrowhead since we moved out of the AFC West? I don't think we have. I know we lost to them once with Matt Castle. I know we lost to them once with Alex Smith.
Castle was at home, and we went on the road with Alex Smith.
Yeah, I don't think we have.
I don't think we have either. I don't think we have.
Yeah.
Huh. It's crazy. Yes. It's been a while, man. I'm trying to. There's there had to be a year, and it's like no, I don't think we went into KC and got them. I think they've.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't remember beating them very much when we were in the division. So I don't know when the last time we won in Arrowhead was.
Arrowhead was brutal, and back then, Brendon, that was always a 10 a.m. game for us, and that was the heart of the time period too, where we were at the worst in our 10 a.m. games, right? Where it was an epidemic, where every new coach that came through was like, "I'm going to solve this," and then 3 years later, he's like, "I am out of ideas. I don't know what to do. This is horrible. I can't wake these guys up. I'm literally mainlining coffee into their veins. It's not working." So it was bad. You just could not do anything against it. And that stadium's tough. It's loud, man. It's second loudest stadium in the NFL. And that fan base brings it. They're into it. I agree with you. I think this is probably going to be a loss for us on this one, and just a tough game. That's a tough 10. And that's the toughest game that the NFL gave us as far as the schedule. 10 a.m. short week, 10 a.m. against Kansas City, who, by the way, it's like they're going to get the benefits too of that offensive line rebuild that was sort of clunky last year as it was coming together. Now they get year two continuity to click in on that line. And I thought that they made some smart moves this offseason with that. That Tyreek move, Brendon, that was a very like Belichick-like move.
Yeah.
And that's one, to your point on Andy Reid being really smart in his approach and what he does. Because think about it, like it's easy enough for Belichick to take a Brandon Cooks and trade him, right? I don't care about the offense. I don't care about the offense. Who cares about the offense? But what about Andy Reid, he's trading his centerpiece skill position player on this offense, helps make everything kind of go, right? Who balled out in that Bills game, the last game he played, by the way, balled out, but he's moving him. I thought that's just, again, you got to give Andy Reid a little bit of props in the, salute there as far as, hey, you're doing things still intelligently at your age, still this deep into the game. You're not letting the emotionality of, we can't let go of Tyreek, we can't let go of Tyreek. No, it's the smart move to make. It's almost 30 years old.
Yeah. And even if losing Tyreek hurts them by this point in the season, they will have probably figured it out.
Right. Exactly. And it's not like they just went, Tyreek's gone, let's not bring anything in. They did it through a little more of a collection of numbers rather than finding the one guy. They just tried to do a couple of guys that they supplemented it with, right? They brought in the Packers receiver, and I think they grabbed somebody else. It's kind of just sort of more of a strength in numbers than the top three guys, necessarily Kelsey and Hill, and that being kind of it. All right. So you are 6-8. Where are we at here?
6-8. Well, wait. No, 6-9. I think I'm 6-9.
You're 6-9, and I think I'm 7.
One better.
6-9. So yeah, I'm 7-8. So Brendon's 6-9. I'm 7-8 as we get into week 17. And we're back at home now, playing at 1:00 the New York Jets.
I really like the Jets rebuild, but does it kick in this year or next year? Do they start to see returns on that rebuild now or 2023? That's my question, because I love what they're doing theoretically.
Kind of depends on what your outlook is with Wilson, right? I mean, that it all really pivots off of that.
Because what was their draft? They got Sauce, they got Jermaine Johnson, and they got, who was their other first round pick? That was the Drake. Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I thought they got Garrett Wilson and Jermaine Johnson. That's what you're trying to say. They had a great draft, though. They had Breece Hall too.
Yeah, really good.
Clemens.
Oh yeah, Michael Clemens. That was the guy that Rob Stanton got everybody hyped up for. I remember that.
Yeah, Jeremy Ruckert. They had a really top. Them and the Ravens and us, probably the top 3 drafts. Quite honestly, Max Mitchell, I liked him at tackle. They got him. Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State. That was a really good draft by the New York Jets. Props to them on that. I
don't know. This is actually going to be tough.
I'm a little bit, not to the degree I thought he's a better player, but I'm a little bit like how I look at Corral. I look a little bit at Wilson in the same park, where I just go, I don't see it. I don't see it. Yeah, he's got a live arm, and he can make some off platform throws. But I think that they are very much married to the fact that Wilson's got to play good for them to be any good. And I don't buy that. I think Wilson's going to be necessarily good this year. And I think that no matter what else they've stacked around him, if that offense can't function because they don't have the quarterback to push it forward, and they're going to run ball. Breece Hall will run well, and they're going to have got a couple of linemen there, Elijah Vera Tucker and Micah Becton's in there. George Fant's still kicking around there, though. I think he's almost better at left tackle than he is at right tackle. As they kicked him over there last year when Becton went down, and he did really good. But I don't know if he's as good at the right tackle. It's kind of a natural left in how he plays.
Yeah, it's a little bit awkward. I agree with that. I don't know. I mean, God, when you look at the schedule, you go like, oh, it's the Jets. We're going to beat the Jets. It's the Jets. But then you're like, well, it's the Jets with the number 2 overall quarterback, a couple really good drafts. Soleil, I mean, it seems like he's doing some things right so far. It's a little early to judge. but it's like maybe this is going to be like the good Jets, the rarely spotted in the wild good Jets.
You think they're
It's
coming
gonna be near
across
the
the
end of the
country
season,
late
too.
in the season, tired, haggard, a little bit beaten up from the year? They got to come all the way out from New York. It's a 6-hour flight. Get out to Seattle. It's going to be cold when they get off the plane. It's going to have that musty air to it, where it's just always a little bit colder because it's always a little wet in the air off the plane. You think they're going to come in our house at that point? And
I mean, it also kind of depends if Seattle has anything to play for at that point, I guess, too,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Not that the Jets
Jets
probably
won't
won't
either.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're onto this. Like they won't, because that not in the AFC, man. Not with the teams that are, because we know, look, the playoff teams are going to be one of any number of the 4 teams in the AFC West. Colts, right? Tennessee, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. You could see New England,
Cincinnati.
Buffalo, Cincinnati. I mean, they're not better than any of these teams we're mentioning. I mean, even Miami, you could make an argument for being in a better position at this point, or at least on an equal ground as New York in that respect. So what do you got?
I don't know. I'm kind of smelling the game where we just lay an egg against a team we probably should beat. We always
Okay.
have a couple. Most teams do, but I can't predict a loss for any reason other than that, because we haven't seen the Jets be good yet. Like,
Right.
it's all theoretical, like gravity, it's just a theory.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say we win, but
There we go.
I'm actually starting to wonder, because like most people, when I first looked at the schedule, I was like, oh, it's the Jets. Okay, let's go. And then I was like, well, maybe it's not the Jets as we know them.
And look, they've assembled a lot of talent over the last couple of years. Carl Lawson last year went down before the season even started. They, added DJ Reed to pair there with Ahmad Gardner. They've got some interesting parts and pieces. They lost Marcus May this offseason, I believe. So it's a little bit of give and take. I'm still not in on Salah completely. I'm out on Wilson for the most part. You're at home. I think deep into this type of season, it is a letdown game, and I don't think we're gonna have a lot to play for with either of our 2 record prognostications where we're putting this out right now. We're not in a playoff picture. But with that said, I think this team knows it's building towards more of a future point at that point. And Carroll's not the type of guy to punt away games for better draft position. Even if that infuriates us, he's going to still try to go for it. So I'm going to mark this as a win for my game. So what are you going to say?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I will too. And by the way, I want to say one thing. I don't know if a head coach in any capacity should be trying to lose games, by the way. I know there's definitely part of us that wishes we could get those better draft picks, but I don't know if you want a coach that is actively throwing games for those picks. Like, that might be bigger problem than it's worth.
You're okay. You're hoping in a Pandora's box now. I got to ask you. Okay, let's go rubber to the road on this one, because we had a story break this offseason with Brian Flores. It's currently, I believe, part of the lawsuit, if I'm not mistaken, Brendon, where he was told that he was being offered $100,000. Was it $500,000 or $100,000? $100,000 a loss, I believe, was what Brian Flores was being offered to throw games by Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins. If you're at the end of this year and you're not in the playoff structure and you were the owner of the football team. Now, I know you said you can't ask your coach to do it. You wouldn't want your coach to take that on his hands and him to do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're the owner of the team, if you're in the power and control to do so, come down to the coach at that point and say, look, Sid, who's even halfway injured, don't necessarily try. We have a difference of picking from number 8 to picking number 3 right now on these next slate of 3 games we have going here. If you go and win versus lose them, keep that in mind. You're not winning this year. You're not taking anything home this year. I can understand both sides, I guess, is what I'm saying. I can understand the side of saying to the coach, I'm not going to pay you money, coach, to do this. You're here next year. I'm not firing you. You're not going to, suffer any heat from this. But I mean, we need to go get a quarterback. We need draft positioning. I don't need 3 more wins. I need better draft positioning. I think it's an interesting question. Where do you stand on it?
I mean, I think the injury thing is kind of where it starts and ends. You bench guys who would otherwise be playing through an injury because that it's not worth it. Like, if you're playing for a playoff spot, or you're going to make the playoffs, then you're putting guys at risk who are maybe working through some issue that has them at less than 100%. But you don't do that when you're at the end of a lost season.
Right.
Like that to me is what tanking really is. The teams that have nothing to play for kind of check out in ways that are not just, oh, let's intentionally lose. They
Right.
check out in ways like, we're not going to have all the players we would otherwise have. I think that's far more realistic.
Yeah, I agree with you too. It's an easier if these guys come to like with I can't believe. By the way, do you buy Flores? Do you think he's telling the truth on that?
I haven't looked into the situation enough to really opine on that. I could see an owner being like, I want those picks. Like, I could definitely see an owner doing it. It's believable. I'm not saying I believe it, but I don't dismiss it out of hand because it sounds ridiculous. But
Ross
I
strikes
don't
me as
know.
he strikes me as one of those live wire owners, one of those Jerry Jones, types that are just a little bit of like, they'll march to their own beat, or Daniel Snyder, where they'll play a little bit outside of the lines a little bit in their approach. I wouldn't be surprised if it's true in the least in that. It's like, it's very specific to be, to be a lie, I guess. All right, so we're getting to the final game of the season here, Brendon. Let's set the stage here. I've got us at what am I at? 7. I think I'm at 8.
I think you're 8-8, and I'm
I'm
7-9.
You're 8. I'm 8. You're 7-9. We're fairly close on our outlook here, and we've got the Rams to finish it off at home. Whew. Well, where are we at here on this one?
I guess the Rams could have everything clenched, right? They could be like, we don't need this win. Possibly the NFC is not going to be that great this year. If the Packers falter a little bit, it could just be the Rams with a 2-game lead on everybody, I guess. But
very much so.
Otherwise, I'm not really seeing it. It's not been a good matchup for us, even when the team was good. I don't think that's going to change in 1 year when your level of talent has gone down significantly. Even if we did, even if you want to argue that it was time to move on from Wagner, move on from Wilson, move on from these guys, in the short term, it still does make your team less capable. It might pay off eventually, but it is still, your team is still worse for it.
Right.
Bobby had to go, but he's better than Cody Barton. So,
and isn't it on
I think that needs to be remembered.
Isn't it on a couple levels too? To your point on this, not just on the you're taking a step back for the player on the field. Cody's lesser than Bobby, and Gino's obviously lesser than Russell, or Locke's lesser than Russell. But then also you've got the $45 million of dead money hit, and there's the argument to be made of, in the NFL, in this competitive league, that every team's trying to get their edge, every team's pushing the cap to the ends of the earth, and you're operating from a cap deficiency of negative $45 million versus everybody else in the NFL. To expect that type of team could be competitive in that given year is kind of just not. I'm not saying it's ridiculous, but it's a little bit out of whack from reality.
Yeah, that's kind of why part of me wishes we didn't do things like the Disley contract and the Nwosu contract, because this shouldn't be a year where we're going for it anyways. But we've banged that drum plenty before, so I'm not going to do it again. But yeah, I don't think it's realistic to work from a place of a massive handicap like that and expect anything too great to happen.
100%. Well, this would lead us both. We're both in right around the same territory where we finish off these records. I'm 8-9. You're 7-9. Is that where you
7? Well, 7-10.
7-10. You're 7-10, and I'm 8-9.
Yeah, not that I'm that worried about tanking this year because there are so many good QBs in this draft, but it's kind of the worst place to be, right? Not good enough to have any real shot at the playoffs, but you kind of wish you were a little bit worse so you could just get that 4 wins season and have your pick of the litter all the way down the draft. But I don't know. I think the team is going to be a little too good for that.
Yeah, this is the problem with doing the short-term deals, veteran contracts, the re-signings that you just mentioned, is that it's signings that not only would it be like, man, it'd be nice to save that money and roll it over maybe next year, but also that you're making yourself just good enough this year, not to be good enough to get to the playoffs, but also not bad enough to be there to be truly in contention for one of probably the top 1 or 2 quarterbacks minimum on the board, if not beyond that. We just spoke about the quarterbacks in this draft. Maybe we will be a little bit, absolved of that because there are truly 5 or 6 quarterbacks who are first round worthy. And so the way we don't get the creme de la creme, but we still get a damn fine quarterback at that spot, which is okay. But nonetheless, this is going to make it a little bit tougher picking in that midpoint of the round. There's teams out there that have been caught at times who need to get that quarterback in that spot, and they're not picking high enough to get him. And it's like they're definitely caught in a little bit of a bind. And look, you got the draft capital, Brendon. We can always lean back on that if we need it, right? If we got to utilize that to move up in the draft, we can. But you certainly like to just be able to sit on it and take those players as you pick them as they're coming down the line on it, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Although, like I said, maybe this is a draft where you don't want the top pick because then maybe you buy into the CJ Stroud and Bryce Young hype, which I'm not buying into. Maybe you'd rather let some other team do that, and then you're left with the Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, KJ Jefferson pool. So maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way, but either way, in a vacuum, if you're going to be bad, you'd rather be really bad than just kind of bad. So I stand by that.
Very true. And both me and Brendon on this, because we're close to this 8 and 8 range, it's not going to surprise either of us, not to speak for you, but it wouldn't surprise either of us, I believe, to see this be it can fluctuate 2-3 games here. There are winnable or losable more games going either way. So you do having at least a competitive team, you are dancing on the outside of that playoff structure. And if things broke, you're right. If you have a couple of injuries to some of these old quarterbacks, I mean, Brendon, we got the geriatric unit and then a bad NFC around them, basically, right? Unless somebody's buying into the Cowboys, which you're not buying the Cowboys, are you?
I mean, they'll win the division, right? Pretty much for free, but that's about it.
Pretty much for free is free. That's right. Just here's your division title, Dallas. Oh, we didn't have to even try. No, just the rest of the teams are that bad. Okay, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Still, the outlook is rosy for both of us. The season's anticipatable. You go into next offseason, 4 picks at that point. You've gone through a middling season. You've got $130 million to spend. It's going to be interesting to see how they push that forward. But this is a fun schedule, Brendon. You don't have the primetime games. There's some interesting matchups here, though, and it certainly is not one that is like we've had some recent schedules that have come out, Brendon, that have been pretty tough. Last year's schedule was really pretty tough. Out the gate, you were going up against 3 playoff contending type teams right for the first 3 games. We have 2 of the first 3 games on the road, I believe, last year. We've had some tough stretches, 5 games at 10 a.m. In given years. So it's got a little bit of some relaxedness to it with that, but a fun schedule. Going to Germany, got the Broncos in the opening week, Rams to finish the season, going back to Arrowhead on a Saturday night. I mean, Saturday day. Might have a snow day on that one, Brendon. Going into Arrowhead in December 24th. Imagine Christmas, snow, Chiefs, 10 a.m.
And, not that I think this will happen, but if we do find a way to beat Denver, how hyped are the fans going to be for that next week? Like, unbelievable for so many reasons. Oh, yeah. People are going to be so excited. I don't know if it'll last, but that's going to set some people off for sure.
Your comment, so many reasons, is absolutely right, because it's not just the fact you got Russell. It's it sort of is going to confirm a lot of things for people of, well, maybe he was part of the problem on it. Maybe now it's actually we've gotten over the problems, and they'll go down that whole reason, thought process to arriving at how we're awesome now instead. But even if we win that game, I think you and I are like, we got to pop our brakes a little bit. It'll be good. It'll be awesome. We would love to see nothing more than that, because it helps us not only get Denver 1 game worse and down in their draft position, but makes us better. But this team's going to be a work in progress this next upcoming season. Fair to say.
Yeah, I would rather watch whatever this team is going to do than watch whatever they were doing last year. Right? I will pay money to watch this team go through this rebuild that is so much better than just hanging around in the middle. You've got enough stuff to be relevant, but not enough stuff to actually be really good. This is so much better than that.
You knew how it was going to play out, right? Kind of what you're saying, that you knew the way the season, you didn't know exactly how the records would go to who you lose or lost, but you had a general feeling of, I know the way that this story is going to unfold. And we don't have that same, we have a general idea, but we really don't have any idea. And it wouldn't surprise us in the least to see a big fluctuation. And even though we're both very close in our outlook here, it wouldn't surprise us in the least to see this in a different state, would it?
Yeah, I agree. I'm just excited. I'm just excited that we actually get a year where you get to see the team really develop. Like there's going to be so many developmental guys on this team, guys who are going to get better, not guys who are going to get worse. It's exciting, even though I don't think we're going to win a lot of games.
Agreed. And you got two new schemes being implemented, with the offensive scheme now getting year two, which is, as Brendon has often said, years two is when you get your real the benefits of that new offensive system that you're implementing, and then you also now have a new defensive system. So it's also, we're going to watch a new brand of football on both sides of the ball. I think they'll be more committed to this Waldron offense this year, especially having the tackles in place they do to get to more of the outside stuff, Brendon. And I think this is going to bear out a more exciting and funner brand of football to watch, on top of being more unpredictable.
Unpredictable. I mean, in the AFC, maybe. I don't know if the NFC is going to be too unpredictable, but if you're just talking about this team,
Just this team.
then yeah, just this team, then yeah. I mean, there's just so much we don't know. Like I've said many times, I'm not expecting Cross and Lucas to be all that good as rookies, but it's not impossible. It's just, I think, unlikely. So there's a lot of stuff we're just not going to know until we see it, and I'm excited for that.
I am too. It's going to be a fun ride and a fun season. And me and Brendon are going to be here every day, or all the time. And of course, if you're not already, please go over to Seahawks Brendon Nelson's channel here on YouTube and subscribe to him. We do weekly shows here, where on Thursdays we're over here on my side, and then the other Thursdays we're over on his side, 6 o'clock or 6 to 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, depending on the week. We'll absolutely keep going along with this. Thanks for coming in here to Brendon and breaking down the schedule with me live. It was fun kind of unveiling this live with you. I was excited all day of like, what are they going to do with us? How's this going to be? You know, I mean, we have tempered expectations, but we're still kind of fun to see how to look and play out.
Yeah. I'm here for it, man. And I mean, look, I've counted out this team before in the past. Now they've had different personnel, but they've generally answered the bell whenever I've started to really think they're just done. So there is definitely a possibility they end up surprising me. But
they're going to be close, Brendon, right? They're going to be in that, like, if you're close, you're in these games, you're squishing games down, you're limiting possessions, you're playing great special teams, you're running the football. Like, at the very least, you might not win the games, but you're going to everything's going to come down to a very tight point, to where it's not as much of teams are just able to just run the score on you, I guess. Even though you're in this rebuilding state of, you're going to see 40-13 type games. I don't think we're going to see a lot of those. Would you?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'll say I agree with that. I think that, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and side with you on that one.
Okay. You don't seem sure on it, but I'll go with it. I'll go with that as a yes on it. Well, anything else you want
to think about it?
Yeah, well, that's good. I want you to. Anything else you got kind of on your mind with our Hawks, kind of pressing, or anything you're thinking about?
Not really. I think we've covered everything about as good as can be covered. We've got a little more stuff to talk about with this rookie class, I think, but right now I think we're getting close to just kind of hunkering down and waiting for stuff to happen later in the summer.
Very well said. And I think that's kind of where we're going to be at. I think we are anticipating here at some point, Brendon, the next, I'd say probably month to 45 days, we're going to hopefully get a DK Metcalf contract extension. So if that happens, we'll definitely be going live on, I think it's your turn for the channel if we get some breaking news live time. So we'll be doing that if we get something coming down the track with that. But other than that, please do hit that like button. If you do like what you're listening to here today, it does help me out a lot. Thank you to all the people that did donate to the channel. And as Brendon said, you never know where this is going to go. This team can surprise you. Coach Carroll's got that plucky nature where when you count him down, he seems to be at his best sometimes, above being maybe more of the front runner. Oh, they're going to be awesome. It's almost better when he's the odds seem against him. I don't know. Am I off on that? Maybe I'm just.
I mean, that was kind of the case when Carroll was at USC. That was kind of the case. I remember USC would be really good in big games against really good teams. But then against, I remember they were ranked number 1 in the country, and then they lost to the Oregon State Beavers when the Beavers were terrible. Mm-hmm. They lost a lot of games that were considered to be, I guess, small games, but they were good in the big games. So if you want to try to draw a parallel there, I think you could.
I'm just saying, you never know. Maybe when he calls onto it, maybe the old man's got one more last note to the career here, one more last symphony for him to play to surprise us. It is possible. You never know, and certainly having a great draft like they just did is an encouraging sign and step in that direction of things. Thank you, Brendon, so much for coming over here onto the channel. Again, folks, please do go over to Seahawks Brendon Nelson and sub to his channel if you're not already. We'll continue to keep doing this BNB show. I'll be back over on his side. Maybe next Thursday, we'll kind of talk on what we're going to discuss if we do on that. But either way, we'll be back on his side next show over. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And please do not forget, never forget, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.